these unholy actors, Hamas and Putin, and then the puppet masters above them in Tehran and Beijing. One way to stop emboldening these bad actors, strategic rivals, I guess is the phrase we're supposed to use, is for us to stop funding them. I mean, here's just sort of a first order problem I have with the ruling class approach to these matters. There's no recognition of the mistakes that we made and the poor policy choices that we made. And so there's little prospect that policy choices will improve. So, right. Would you like to revisit the amount of aid that we've provided to the residents of Gaza, ostensibly to the residents of Gaza, that we provided through the UN, through UN programs, we, the United States, have provided, that we knew was
going straight to Hamas.
Going straight to Hamas.
Yes.
So that's number one. Can we get an accounting for that? It's just glossed over. Number two, obviously with Iran, we know this well. This has been a decade in the making, going back to Joe Obama terms 1 and 2, with the glide path to nuclearization, the drop shipping of cash in the middle of the night during Obama, the $6 billion for hostages under the big guy, the energy policy, where we have reduced our domestic production and gone begging around the world from Caracas to Riyadh for certainly strategic rivals at a minimum to help us with our energy needs. Meanwhile, allowing Putin and the mullahs in Tehran to exponentially increase their oil exports and finance so much of their bad actions, finance their invasion of Ukraine, finance their sponsorship of terrorism in the Middle East and the world over. Is there going to be a reckoning for that? No, we didn't hear much on that, did we?
And the new speaker wants to, remove $14.3 billion of funding from the IRS to send aid to Israel. He wants to separate this out.
Well, that's a whole separate thing. I mean, one, the Israeli funding issue, and I thought Leah Leibovitz from Tablet Magazine yesterday made a really interesting case. You know, I mean, he is Israeli immigrant. He is certainly pro-Israel and for the eradication of Hamas. But he argued America should stop funding everybody in the Middle East.
Right.
Stop funding Iran, obviously. Stop funding Hamas indirectly, clearly. Stop allowing Qatar to fund our universities. That's a good idea. But also stop funding Israel because Israel doesn't need the funding. It's a nice symbolic gesture of support and brotherhood, but all that you're really doing is subsidizing your defense contractors, and we don't need it. We'll do it ourselves. Okay. I'm certainly willing to listen to that argument. So, I mean, in addition to that, just the reality on the ground. I mean, just this week, people are stealing like there's no tomorrow. A top advisor speaking to Time Magazine said about the Zelensky administration. Officials do not feel any fear of engaging in corruption because of the firing of Reznikov, the defense minister, and others took over 6 months after Zelensky was warned that the defense ministry was drowning in graft. Another advisor reportedly told Time Zelensky acted. By the time Zelensky acted, it was too late. The corruption scandal not only become known in the Western capitals, but also among soldiers on the front line, where troops reportedly began making lewd jokes about Reznikov's eggs, a reference to the accusation the defense ministry had vastly overpaid for basic items such as eggs and coats for soldiers. The report notes claims by officials that Zelensky's office has worked to stop giving the impression of corruption, but that belies the underlying reality is essentially what they're arguing. So before you send another $61.5 billion to Ukraine, when they seem to be, I mean, I'm not hearing a lot of rosy scenarios from Ukraine, even from, proponents of blank checks. But before you send another $61 billion, just even setting aside what impact that would have if it was used to maximum effect, even Steve Bucci from the Heritage Foundation, who's open-minded on it, certainly not reflexively opposed to continuing to provide aid to Ukraine, said, we need sort of a line-by-line accounting for how this money is going to be spent and some sort of mechanism for ensuring that, it is so, at least approximately. So we're not just, funding lifestyles of the rich and famous in the upper reaches of the Zelensky administration. And was there any talk of that? No. See, the unwillingness to confront what the hoi polloi out here in the hustings knows about what the government has done, the reports about what other governments are doing with our money, the unwillingness to confront that. We're just going to walk past it and pretend that nobody sees or hears anything. That doesn't inspire confidence. And I question whether that sort of approach merits support, even if you're sympathetic to the potential underlying beneficiaries.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer,
we'll continue our conversation on these matters. Also, want to get to an update on that North Lawndale Halloween party shooter. We've got a lot more information on who that is per the man in custody suspected of that mass shooting. That's at 5:38.
And later, Dan, one preschool not using the word Halloween anymore. I'll tell you what they've decided to rename it and why. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
30 degrees at 5:31. Icy conditions and lake effect snowfall for northwest Indiana. Icy conditions closing some area roadways and expressways, and we'll get to that in traffic in just a moment. The Israeli Defense Forces reporting at least 9 more of their soldiers have been killed since moving into Gaza.
Those soldiers were apparently hit by what is called an anti-tank guided missile as they moved forward as part of the ongoing operations there in northern Gaza. Now, we should point out that these 9 soldiers that we have now been told about who were killed are in addition to the 2 we have previously reported. So what we publicly know is that 11 IDF soldiers have been killed inside Gaza since the ground operation got underway.
Jonathan Hunt. Israel launched airstrikes on apartment buildings in a refugee camp. The strikes were targeting senior Hamas leadership, destroying a militant command center along with an underground tunnel network, but killing an unknown number of people. Meantime, dozens of foreign passport holders crowded into a border crossing today in what could be the first such departure from Gaza. Taiwan says China has sent another 43 military aircraft and 7 ships near the island nation. The latest sign that Beijing plans no let-up in its campaign of harassment of Taiwan. Former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew is the new U.S. ambassador to Israel, confirmed on a Senate vote of 53 to 43. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott has qualified for the 3rd GOP presidential debate next week in Miami. Meantime, President Biden travels to rural Minnesota today. That part of Minnesota is also home to Democrat presidential candidate Dean Phillips, who's making a strong but late primary challenge. A man charged in a mass shooting that wounded 15 over the weekend at an unsanctioned Halloween party on the west side will remain in custody. Risa Lanier is with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office did file a petition for Mr. Groves to be detained while awaiting trial on these charges, and that petition has just been granted.
Police say the suspect has a long criminal history dating back over 20 years. William Groves faces 15 counts of attempted murder and unlawful use of a weapon by a felon for the attack early Sunday. Illinois State Police released a video showing state trooper being shot last week in Springfield. Authorities say the footage shows Cristobal Santana of Chicago pulling out a gun and firing shots at Trooper Dakota Chapman Green during a traffic stop. Chapman Green's mother, Chris, thanked the community, and his father, Jimmy, thanked first responders and law enforcement, who they say are helping their family.
The hearing was held, and the court made the requisite findings to grant our petition to hold the defendant in custody pending his trial.
That's Sangamon County State's Attorney Dan Wright, who says Santana, who is also wanted for murder here in Chicago, was charged with 5 counts of allegedly shooting the state trooper Chapman Green. Police are reporting another in a string of attempted crash and grab robberies. It happened yesterday in the Wicker Park neighborhood at the Round 2 store along North Milwaukee Avenue. Bears buyers at the NFL trade deadline, bringing in defensive end Montez Sweat from Washington and sending back to D.C. a 2024 high second-round draft pick. Raiders have fired head coach Josh McDaniel and GM Dave Ziegler. The Bulls aim to get above 500 when they visit Dallas tonight. The news service of the AM 560 store. Order T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Lil's Dietary Shop, Blue Star Security, and by Hope Wins 7.
When you're in the market to buy or sell a home, commercial property, or even vacant land, let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. She's reliable, responsive, personable, and extremely thorough when helping you deal with an otherwise stressful transaction. Attorney Kim leads with her values and is committed to providing legal services with excellence. To contact Attorney Kim, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com. Whether it's drafting agreements, negotiating contract terms, or closing on a property, Attorney Susan J. Kim can do it all. Over 10 years of experience and her wealth of knowledge tackling complicated legal negotiations and breaking them down into a smooth, easy-to-understand process is what she does best. So let Attorney Susan J. Kim step in. To schedule your legal consultation today, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com or call 847-906-3166. Susan J. Kim, attorney at law, is a state of Illinois licensed real estate attorney.
It's obvious the unthinkable is happening. With all the recent media distractions, most folks never saw it coming. But a few did. Their guts told them something very wrong was going on. And now the headlines are proving them right. The people in charge keep telling you that everything's fine and to stop noticing. But you know better. Folks are investing in emergency food storage, and you should too. My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, are the ones you can trust. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure their best-selling 3-month emergency food kits. Each contains tasty breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, averaging over 2,000 calories per day. Get at least one for each family member. My Patriot Supply also sells biomass stoves, off-grid room heaters for when the power goes out, gravity-powered water filters, heirloom seeds, and survival gear that may come in handy soon. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today. It's time to prepare for what's coming. mypatriotsupply.com.
You've heard me talk about my love of coffee over and over again. I'm here to tell you I have discovered one of the best brews I've ever tasted, and a company that I cannot wait to support. I'm here to tell you about Bone Frog Coffee. The Bone Frog is a sacred symbol in the SEAL teams. It honors those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, their lives. Bone Frog was founded by Tim Crook Shank, a former Navy SEAL and 25-year Navy veteran. Bone Frog honors the fallen, those who gave everything for our freedoms and our American way of life, by giving 10% of all the proceeds to benefit many of the U.S. Navy SEAL foundations. Here's what I need you to do. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. Get 10% off your first order. You will also get 15% off Bone Frog Coffee subscriptions. Just enter Liberty at checkout. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. That's bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. Taste one of the best brews you ever tasted. 10% of the proceeds go to benefit the Navy SEALs. You'll feel good. It's an American company. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty.
Make the hiring process work for you. With Indeed's end-to-end hiring solution, you can attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
Team Hochberg Traffic Center at 539. Inbound Edens shut down right now due to accidents and very icy conditions. That's inbound between Old Orchard and Dempster right now. The Kennedy inbound, about 25 minutes into the Burns Circle interchange. Dan Ryan, accident blocking 2 right lanes. Inbound in the Express right at 47. The Bishop Ford right now stop and go due to an accident. Left lane blocked inbound. 159th to 154th is the length of your delay. The outbound Bishop Ford shut down between 159th and 394 due to a bad accident. 8094 shut down westbound between Torrance and the Bishop Ford due to multiple accidents. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sunny, not as cold today. High 45, 34 overnight, and warming up to 52 tomorrow. 30 right now. Next news at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is sponsored by Protecting Your Assets with Steve Scheinman. Listen Saturday mornings at 8. Learn more at willsave.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We're talking about all the stars that were out yesterday to make the pitch to Congress and to the American people that we should spend and send another $106 billion of your money to Israel, to Ukraine being the majority of those dollars, Taiwan, and also we'll throw in a little bit for the border. That's how they're trying to sell skeptical Republicans is we'll give you $1 billion for border security. We'll get to that in a second. But it wasn't just animatronic Anthony Blinken out making the case, including the moral play. Humanitarian aid, these are our values. Humanitarian pause. By the way, all this talk about we don't support a ceasefire, but we do support humanitarian pauses. Now, what's a humanitarian pause? It's a ceasefire. Anyway, I digress. But one more parenthetical comment about Tony Blinken. Did you see what he did yesterday?
Which time I was?
The White House Halloween party. Oh, no. His 4-year-old son, he's got a 4-year-old kid. He's like De Niro. His 4-year-old son dressed up as Zelensky. I mean, could you be a bigger knob? Could you be
look this up?
Could you be a bigger stroke than to dress you're the Secretary of State and you dress your kid up as Zelensky? It's really something. Yeah, he's 61. He's got a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Hello.
How about that?
And he plays the guitar. What was he? He was jamming out on something the other day at the White House.
Yeah,
they're so talented. They're
and his wife. She's 52. I looked this up. His wife is the cabinet secretary to the cabinet officials. Evan Ryan is her name. Huh. Interesting. Dressing your kid up as Zelensky.
It doesn't. I mean, army green. Yeah, but that's come on.
That's what he was doing. Maybe he's going to send his kid around the Capitol, going door to door with a tin can, trying to raise that $61 billion. Oh, he's so cute. Let's give him $1 billion of other people's money. All right.
His daughter was dressed like Snow White. I think that's what that is.
I'm sure the new and improved and woke Snow White, but regardless, the other stars that were out, Lloyd Austin, your SecDef, and of course Christopher Wray, your FBI director, who has a newfound concern about the shoddy border security.
But as I said a few moments ago, on top of the homegrown violent extremists and domestic violent extremist threat, we also cannot and do not discount the possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization may exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks here on our own soil. We have kept our sights on Hamas and have multiple ongoing investigations into individuals affiliated with that foreign terrorist organization.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'm glad that he's able to report on some ongoing investigations, because I know he can't confirm or deny the existence of investigations when it comes to Biden Incorporated, but he can when it comes to Hamas-affiliated terrorists in this country. That's good to know. Anybody want to take this one in terms of what the predicate question is to this discussion of terrorists entering our country?
Well, now he's realizing Hamas is, it's just as bad as ISIS, if not worse, and that they're here.
We assess that the actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration, the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS.
So the predicate question now. Anybody want to tackle the predicate question here? Peter Doocy tried with National Security Council spokesman John Kirby. John Kirby did the best job he could playing dumb.
The CBP in San Diego said militants associated with the Israel-Hamas war may be potentially encountered at the southwest
You're talking
border.
about the San Diego.
Yeah. And is there any heartburn around here? 600,000 known gotaways just in the last fiscal year.
Yeah.
Is there any heartburn about leaving the border in such a condition that one of those 600,000 could be a terrorist?
So let me just break this down for you just a little bit here. First of all, I can't speak to this intelligence report that was leaked to the media. I wouldn't do that. I can tell you that we are constantly monitoring as best we can all ports of entry to the country for the potential arrival of anybody who might wish us harm. And one of the things that the president asked for in this supplemental was additional funding for border security, for like 1,500 more border patrol agents and better technology at the border. I mean, so again, we would urge Congress to take a look at that supplemental request and pass it. But if the general gist of your question is, are we taking the potential threat seriously? Of course we are.
The general gist was, is it possible that somebody who wants to commit a terrorist attack during a time of elevated threat crossed the southern border into the United States already?
I couldn't possibly answer that question, Peter. All I can do is tell you that we have remained vigilant to that potential threat.
1.7 million gotaways in the country during this president. And the response is, we remain vigilant. We take this seriously. And I can't tell you, so your FBI director just said we have open investigations into Hamas-related terrorist activity.
Hamas is here.
And your response is, I couldn't possibly tell you, despite the 250 stops of individuals on the terrorist watch list in fiscal year 2023, I couldn't, and 1.7 million, against the backdrop of 1.7 million gotaways, 600,000 last fiscal year, I couldn't possibly tell you if anybody got into this country because of the lack of enforcement of our border.
Do they not even watch the news? Like, watch Fox on the weekends or watch CNN. You can see there's porous borders. There's places where they even cut down the barbed wire where people are just walking in.
So could you hazard a guess, John? Do you think it's possible? Let me ask you it another way. Would it be more likely or less likely that terrorists would enter this country if we had border security that prevented 600,000 gotaways last year? Could you Could you work the logic there? Could you give us an answer on that? I mean, the suspension of disbelief that is required to listen to the answers from these individuals, and then John Kirby did the pivot, real subtle, all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. That's why you got to pass the $106 billion, because in there's $1 billion for border security, an indication we take this so seriously. Are you persuaded?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636, type in DA, then a quick comment.
Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, not persuaded. She was on with Larry Kudlow, and she had more updated data for you to pour over, and for John Kirby to pour over, too, since he can't possibly comment on this or that while other members of the administration or members of Congress are providing this detail. Marsha Blackburn on Kudlow yesterday.
Now, in 2023, we had people from 180 different countries. We have had 250-something known terrorists that have been apprehended at the southern border. We know that there are thousands of people that are termed a person of interest that they've come in, they've claimed asylum, they've been released into the country. This is a really bad soup in the making. And if you're looking at all these individuals and we don't know about what is happening with the unknowns, the gotaways, the terrorists that might be in those numbers.
Eduardo, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, good morning. You had a 5,000 caravan heading up north. And keep in mind, all those resources from Mexico are going into Acapulco for that hurricane cleanup, so I doubt they're going to be guarding those people very good.
Well, not to mention who's pressuring Mexico to do it the way that Trump did with AMLO during his term. The Biden administration pressuring Mexico to help them on the other side of the southern border? I haven't heard that. Have you?
In Mexico, no. Well,
No.
VP Harris is supposed to be in charge, right?
No, she's getting to root causes. You know, she's working those Northern Triangle countries to get to root causes. Yeah.
Well, we don't need that right now. We need to stop people from flooding into this country.
George, Naperville.
Yeah, this will be convenient for Biden. He can blame the Israeli conflict if we have a terrorist attack here.
Thanks for the call, George. With respect to this construct of a comprehensive aid package, and again, I think, the money is really secondary. It's more the principle. I mean, $106 billion is $106 billion. But in the grand scheme of what this government spends, I think the government spent $6.3 billion last year and had about 6.3 trillion last year, had about 4.8 trillion in revenue. So, and even if you look at the proposed discretionary budget for fiscal year 2024, it's something like 1.8 trillion. So $100 billion is not nothing, but as you mentioned about Mike Johnson talking about pulling $15 billion from the IRS to send to Israel and so on and so forth. I mean, you certainly don't need to print more money. You certainly don't need to. You certainly can do what Johnson is suggesting with the Israeli aid and take from any other agency or several agencies to provide this if you really wanted to do it while sort of holding the spend harmless. That's not really the point. The point is whether this makes any sense. If it was $1, does it make any sense? I sort of want to separate the money for a second. Because I think that's definitely a secondary or tertiary issue. But this is getting some bipartisan support on Capitol Hill, which should remind people how difficult the Speaker's job is with a narrow majority. Because over on the Senate side, you got Mitch McConnell saying that, he and Schumer basically agree on the framework, and now the devil's in the details.
Conceptually, Senator Schumer and I are in the same place in the sense that we view all of these problems as connected. Ukraine is part of it, Obviously, Israel enjoys overwhelming support, but we think it's also important that we have a part related to Asia, and that's Taiwan. And then, as several of my members have underscored, we think it's important to do something credible about our own border, which is basically wide open. So conceptually, I think Schumer and I are in the same place. In terms of the details, what is really needed to protect the border? Not a bunch of money going to Chicago and New York, but something seriously drafted. And we were working on that, and I think the Democrats will have to accept a really serious U.S.-Mexico border protection bill in order to get our people on board for a comprehensive approach.
No, they won't have to accept anything serious because you're talking about just throwing $1 billion at it, but we're going to hire more personnel. We're going to call that border security, when everybody who's been following this knows that it doesn't matter because of the underlying policies that prevent Border Patrol from enforcing immigration law. They're not on the front line. They're not on the line. They're doing paperwork to process all the quote-unquote asylum seekers. Not to mention those that are, you have to run through and do the background checking and so on and so forth. Tom Homan told us this when he last appeared on the program. They're working in the office as administrators. They're not on the border as law enforcement. I mean, hell, you've got to have the state of Texas sue to be able to put up its own sections of barriers to on the border to prevent the entrance of people into this country illegally. And this is the misdirection that the big spenders, including Republicans like McConnell, are attempting to perpetrate. And I don't think most Republicans are going to buy it. Marvin, Burlington, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I really hope that they don't buy it. I mean, the report this morning concerning guided missile anti-tank weapon, I mean, I know what it costs just to buy my little meager amounts of ammo. These people are all washing money. They don't need any more. And I'd like to also to know how many people are trying to get out of Gaza that have dual citizenship.
Well, they let some people out today. Some reports
don't
there's
interrupt
500
me.
Americans that are there, and there's other reporting that there's about 1,000. But they
but are they Americans? Are they really Americans?
There's a woman from Chicago who's very American with a Chicago accent who's there with 5 kids.
Blah.
Well, you don't blah, blah, blah me. You want to know the truth or you want to live in a bubble?
You know what, woman? You need some real, you need some education. How many of these people have dual citizenship and their loyalty lie with Hamas? And they just happen to have an American passport because their husbands are big wheels with Hamas who are awash in money that can afford anti-tank weapons. I mean, it's ridiculous. This thing should be voted down. Ukraine is nothing but an absolute money laundering scheme for people in Washington, D.C. And I hope to God someday somebody wakes up and exposes all this nonsense.
Thanks for the call,
And
Marvin.
we don't know if they're stuck in a war zone, so we don't know their status right now on their passports, if they have dual citizenship.
Bob in Grays Lake.
Yeah, well, you got to remember that when Trump ran for office, I thought 2% of what he gave us as Americans would be better than the 0% that Hillary Clinton or now Joe Biden has given us. Biden is the biggest arms dealer in the world after his Afghanistan debacle. He's the biggest human trafficker. Alejandro, my joke ass on the southern border, runs the Department of Homeland Security. And Margaret Thatcher said, Democrats never run out of other people's money. Biden and his administration are the biggest threat to American existence. Democrats don't believe in our democratic republic at all.
Thanks for the call, Bob. Dan Ames, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. The House of Representatives has a new speaker, Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Now, it's time for the People's House to get on with the people's business. There's a lot to do. The arc of history is bending as I speak to you. The question is whether it bends in the direction of freedom and the rule of law and human dignity, or in the direction of authoritarianism, barbarism, and vile anti-Semitism. Speaker Johnson gets it. His first order of business:
the first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we are going to stand for the good in that conflict.
It was a very impressive first speech. Speaker Johnson, congratulations and Godspeed. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. America First with Sebastian Gorka. Weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
They've waited weeks for this. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Hundreds of foreign nationals finally allowed to leave Gaza, where Israel's been waging war since the October 7th Hamas terror attack.
This is all the result of an agreement brokered by the Qataris, along with Egypt, Israel, the U.S., and Hamas. It will allow, we are told, all foreign nationals, foreign passport holders, to leave Gaza via that southern border crossing with Rafah.
Well, that's Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Jerusalem. As Palestinians claim hundreds of people were killed or injured in an Israeli strike on a refugee camp that took out another top Hamas commander, as Israel also keeps taking casualties.
They've confirmed an additional 10 of their soldiers were killed in battles with Hamas inside Gaza. That adds to the 2 they announced yesterday from a reconnaissance unit that were killed in similar battles. These soldiers, some of them were killed by an RPG that was fired by Hamas militants. Others were killed by an anti-tank guided missile that was fired at an armored vehicle inside the Strip.
Fox's Trey Yingst in southern Israel. For the 27th time since the conflict started, the U.S. has come under attack, with no one hurt or damaged in this one.
This information comes from a source in the Iraqi government. 2 drones targeting a U.S. base in Syria's Al-Tanf region purportedly taken out by the base's own defenses. A group calling itself the Islamic Resistance in Iraq earlier claiming it was behind the attempted attack.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. More than 20 Americans have suffered minor injuries in these attacks in all. A student at Cornell University in New York under arrest. Patrick Dye accused of making threats online to kill Jews on campus. Now to the World Series.
Nothing. And now Simeon crushes a ball back to left field. Gurriel to the wall.
Marcus Simeon helped power the Rangers to an 11-7 win over the Arizona Diamondbacks on Fox, giving Texas a 3-1 lead. America's listening to Fox News. 30 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Icy conditions on the roadways this morning. Major expressways shut down and lake effect snow in northwest Indiana. Full story coming up in traffic and weather in just a moment. But first, a man charged in a mass shooting that wounded 15 this past weekend at an unsanctioned Halloween party on Chicago's west side will remain in custody.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office did file a petition for Mr. Groves to be detained while awaiting trial on these charges, and that petition has just been granted.
Risa Lanier is with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling says the suspect should have never had a gun.
He's a convicted felon who shouldn't have had a gun. Again, he's a convicted felon who should not have had a gun.
Police say the suspect has a long criminal history, a violent one dating back over 20 years. William Groves faces 15 counts of attempted murder and unlawful use of a weapon by a felon for the Sunday attack. Illinois State Police releasing video showing a state trooper being shot over the weekend in Springfield by a man from Chicago, Cristobal Santana, who pulled out a gun and fired shots at Trooper Dakota Chapman Green during a traffic stop. Chapman Green's father, Jimmy, thanked first responders and the law enforcement community as his son continues to recover.
Can't thank everybody enough for all the thoughts and prayers. We just want our boy to get better. He loves being a trooper, and he'll never quit being a trooper. He has one speed. Let's go. We can't slow him down. I've tried.
Chapman Green's father, Jimmy. Santana severely beat the trooper with a gun and drove away before being arrested. A couple of hours later, he's also wanted for murder here in Chicago, according to Sangamon County State's Attorney Dan Wright. Chicago aldermen are advancing Mayor Johnson's so-called mansion tax.
Chicago is on the path for the first time ever to have a dedicated, permanent source of funding to make sure that housing is a human right.
City Council committee approved the measure that would ask voters about raising a real estate transfer tax to combat homelessness. It's a move praised by Mayor Brandon Johnson. Lake County authorities are continuing their search for a missing hunter in Lake Villa. Patrick Szerzinski was last seen Sunday morning near 4th Lake. County Sheriff's Office says they have recovered his personal property near a duck blind at the lake. A search is underway today near the lake. Bears were buyers at the NFL trade deadline, bringing in defensive end Montez Sweat from Washington, sending back a second-round pick. Bulls aim to get above 500 tonight when they visit Dallas. College basketball, Northwestern hosts McKendree, and Notre Dame welcomes Hanover. World Series, Texas holds off the Diamondbacks 11-7 in Game 4, Game 5 tonight. The news, a service of the Fireplace and Chimney Authority, Chicagoland's largest and most respected fireplace and chimney company. Call to schedule your appointment today at 630-279-8500 or visit their showrooms in Lisle or Elmhurst. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by St. John's Lutheran School in Lombard, Tom Miraboli, independent insurance agent with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, and by overheaddoorchicago.com.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century. With IoT Smart Connected Scanning, it's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Pure Talk, America's wireless company, is on a mission to alleviate $10 million in military debt by Veterans Day, but they're going to need your help. Now, Pure Talk will donate a percentage of every new order to this great cause. When you make the switch, they make it simple, fast, and easy to their super fast 5G network. Talk, text, plenty of data now, only at $20 a month. Do it right now. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword SAVE NOW. Make the switch to Pure Talk, and you can help a military member in need.
If you're self-employed and purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until January 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels. And this year, you can purchase a multi-state PPO policy, which includes access to Northwestern Medical Group, as well as other teaching hospitals around the nation. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Obamacare, then you need a local expert on your side. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 25-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than 10 years. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551.
6:09 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. 8094 closed due to multiple accidents westbound between Torrance and the Bishop Ford. Slowdowns on the outbound Bishop Ford between 159th and Route 394. In fact, it's shut down as they continue to sand and salt that area due to earlier several accidents and slippery conditions there. Traveling on the Stevenson, you have accidents, multiple crashes due to slick conditions inbound right at DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound. Several accidents on that exit ramp. Stevenson also has problems as you continue to travel between Damon and the Dan Ryan. Just slow traffic there this morning. And the Edens remain shut down between Old Orchard and Dempster. Wet and slick conditions inbound between Old Orchard and Dempster. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, mostly sunny skies. A high today at 45. Partly cloudy, chilly night tonight, low 34. And then partly sunny, breezy tomorrow, the high 52. Cloudy skies on Friday. A bit of a warm-up, the high Friday 57. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
30 at O'Hare, 32 Lakefront. Next news at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Scott Tucker Solutions and his show Retirement Decoded. Sunday mornings at 8. Learn more at scotttuckersolutions.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. You heard it on Mike Scott's newscast. Yes, Chicago Police Chief Larry Snelling saying of the Halloween party shooter in North Lawndale over the weekend, he was a convicted felon. He shouldn't have had a gun, but he did have a gun, and he shot 15 people, and thankfully all of them survived. Thankfully, he's a terrible shot.
But why are they choosing this mass shooting to make a big deal about it? You know, Brandon Johnson wasn't supposed to show up, and then he showed up at the press conference last minute, didn't take any questions. They're acting like this is...
Why is it a big deal if 15 people get shot at a Halloween party?
No, and nobody died. I'm just saying we have more. We have a lot of mass shootings and babies getting shot while their parents are dealing with, you know, road rage incidents, getting shot in cars. And it's just, their selective anger is so strange to me. And then Kim Fox showing up saying, oh, my God, we should be shocked.
This should be shocking to our systems. This should shake us to our core.
Is that bad? I'm not shaken to the core. Or am I just become immune to this?
Yeah, people get inured to it. I understand. And they get inured to the rhetoric coming from politicians about how aghast they are, while this guy who shouldn't have had a gun and does have a 2-decade rap sheet that features things like being convicted of attempted murder in 2008.
9 felonies. Wonder why he's out. I felt like saying, you did this. You know, the sticker with the gas prices with the Biden face on. Yeah, I felt like saying, you did this. And then Mayor Johnson had to act all like, oh, this is awful.
When violence like this disrupts our city, it's literally at our front doors.
profound.
Boy.
Convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm and narcotics in 2000. Convicted of aggravated battery and theft from a person in 2003.
He was mad because he got kicked out of the party. It was a comedian's party, and it was in a neighborhood, in an area that's this spot has been. They've had problems at this location before. People host parties at this location.
Yeah, well, you're going to have problems if you have a 48-year-old who thinks the response to not being invited to the party is to shoot up the place. That is going to create some problems. The authorities don't know how this guy happened upon possession of a gun, but they're working on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the meantime, there are these competing groups of people that are there, trauma counselors. There was service animals there, petting dogs that were there yesterday to help people, cope with this mass shooting.
When one suffers, we all suffer, and the same takes place for healing. If we can heal together, we will heal.
What we're out here also trying to do is provide assistance and resources that can help people in the community and also help change the trajectory of the violence.
How's it going?
Nobody was
changing
there.
that trajectory?
This was not in a neighborhood. This is in like an industrial area. I mean, there's a few houses, but they're so off the mark on this and providing counseling. The people that were shot don't live in that neighborhood.
Well,
they were at a party.
Well, you also saw 15 people shot. I mean, that would probably be a traumatic event for some people.
Do you think they're going to go back to the scene,
people.
though, to go have counseling?
Is that the point? Is that really material?
This new way of policing.
What policing?
No, I'm just saying how they're going to help. They're sending social workers out, and I just don't. I don't want my tax dollars going to that. I'm sorry. That just seemed like a complete waste.
Yeah.
There's like 15
I don't know.
men standing out in the middle of the street wearing these vests, and there's nobody walking around the street because nobody lives there. It's just so performative. Everything in this city is so, knee-jerk reaction. Oh, no, we're going to have a press conference on this shooting.
Well, again, I would anticipate some comment and, frankly, expect some comment from law enforcement when 15 people get shot at a Halloween party. I don't know about you. I'm not quite that a nerd. I expect a comment from the DuPage County Sheriff's Office when 23 people get shot at allegedly a Juneteenth party, and one is killed. I expect some comment on that. What like, for example, what do we know about this guy? And if he was a convicted felon, how did he get this weapon? We're working on it. And what is the policing like in that neighborhood? And what do we know about an unsanctioned party at an unsanctioned location? And how did that happen?
Where they've had problems in the past.
No, I do have questions. Okay. And I do want to hear, particularly from law enforcement. I could go without the cut and paste statements from the politicians, and that includes alleged members of the criminal justice system like Kim Foxx. I could go without that. I'll grant you that. But no, I want to hear it because I want then other people in positions of authority and just in general that have platforms in the city to comment on how come the assault weapon ban so heroically passed by Governor Spalding and his merry band of socialist goons in Springfield didn't prevent this. I want to know what they're going to do about it because we have to do something. So, as I've said before, our vice president, their fellow traveler, Kamala Harris, she insinuated a proposal last week. And who's going to have the stones to take it up? That's what I want to know. Chicago seems like the ideal place to do it. Illinois seems like the ideal place to do it, doesn't it? I mean, if we do what Kamala Harris said, we have faced the potential of litigation. The assault weapon ban that was passed to no objection is being litigated. You're not afraid of litigation when it comes to providing public safety. That's your highest order priority. That's what you're completely focused on. I know Kim Fox is completely focused on violent crime, completely focused on violent crime. Her research office completely focused on violent crime because she's told us. So why not pick up what Kamala Harris is laying down?
In our country today, the leading cause of death of American children is gun violence. Gun violence has terrorized and traumatized so many of our communities in this country. And let us be clear, it does not have to be this way, as our friends in Australia have demonstrated. And with that, then.
Yeah, right.
Yay,
exactly.
yay.
Right. So mandatory gun buyback, which comports with seizure laws, and a ban on all semi-automatic weapons, like Australia did. And then we can be like Australia.
But we wouldn't be saving kids. I mean, the victims in this case, and luckily they're all alive, range in age from 26 to 53. And it just hit me while you were playing that soundbite why they did this, this big press conference yesterday. It's because they all commented on social media about the Maine mass shooting. And we're hit pretty hard. Like, well, why don't you care about the shootings here in Chicago? Why don't you care? In Maine, 18 people sadly lost their lives. 15 people were shot because this clown got kicked out of a party because he got in a fight with somebody and came back with a gun. This alleged man, he's not a man.
So, again, challenging the do something crowd to do something. I mean, David Hogg, Parkland High School survivor and gun banning enthusiast, Harvard educated. David Hogg has a question, and I agree with him. I agree with him for asking this question. He basically, channeling Cleavon Little, said this.
Hey, where are the white women at?
He tweeted, we will never end gun violence until white women in the suburbs stop voting for the Republicans who are endangering our schools and communities by flooding them with guns. Exactly. So if we can't get indigenous leadership from the city, how about the white women in the suburbs lead the charge to move Kamala Harris' suggestion in Chicago and Illinois? Mandatory gun buyback, ban on all semi-automatic weapons, including handguns, which was more likely than not the weapon of choice in this shooting in North Lawndale. We don't know yet. It hasn't been reported, at least I haven't seen it, but certainly that is the weapon of choice in most of the murders in Chicago and in other mid-sized urban centers around the state that have crime problems, your Auroras and your Rockfords and your East St. Louis's. So let's do it. Come on, awfuls.
One of the victims.
Chardonnay Antifa in the suburbs.
Okay. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. One of the shooters, Paris Brown, who goes by Tree, was shot in the back. Luckily, he's alive. He spoke to Channel 7.
One of the victims, not the shooters.
I'm sorry, one of the victims, excuse me. He said he kept hearing the shooter shooting, and he didn't know if it was ever going to stop. And did you see the video of it? I mean, it was so... Did you see it, Dan? After the shooting, the video that came out, and
yeah, I saw
on
it.
The floor. I mean,
yeah. Well, this is the point. 15 people were shot. I mean, seriously, that's a walk away?
I don't know what is. I don't.
Phil and Darian, you're on Chicago's Morning
here
Answer.
Way too long.
Hey, good morning, guys. Listen, Dan, all the questions that you want answers to, okay? Why did this guy have a gun? He's a convicted felon. All them questions that you want answers to, you can't get them because the answers are all racist. Wouldn't you guys agree? And let me make another point. Wouldn't you guys also agree that there's more people killed of drunk drivers than there is of gun bullets? Now, you don't see anybody trying to ban alcohol, do you? Have a nice day, guys.
Thanks for the call, Phil. I don't know. The number of people killed by DUI drivers in Chicago on an annualized basis, is that over 600?
I'll check right now, but I don't. The only good news about this is that He's being held without bond. They're not letting him leave.
Well, it's good. It's good that
it's
there's
finally after 6 times. Diane.
It's good that
now it's hitting home.
It's good that there's a shoot 15 people exception to the Safety Act. That's wonderful. Very encouraging.
Yep. I thought you'd like that. Yeah.
Art, Southwest Side.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on your point about these politicians. For example, tonight there was a homicide on 82nd, and from that homicide, there was a chase, running gun battle through the southeast side. Got another shooting related to that homicide on Garfield, and then a fourth person shot at 62nd, all related to that homicide. So it's like it's window dressing by these politicians all the time. Never sincere.
Thanks for the call, Art. That's why I'm asking for sincerity by doing something. That's the response from the hoi polloi to all of these things. Do something. Well, here's something they can do. Why won't they do it? Maybe they should be challenged on that.
In 2020,
Roland.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just an update. In 2020, 254 people died in DUIs in Chicago.
Roland in Arlington Heights. Oh, wait. Phil in Maryville.
Yeah, morning, guys. You said this guy was convicted of attempted murder?
In 2008. In 2008.
Why isn't he locked up for 10 plus years? And then on top of it,
in 2008,
I mean,
he was convicted. It's 15 years ago.
Yeah, he probably got a light sentence. And then on top of it, my thing is they need stronger laws on the books with mandatory sentences for these animals. And I don't care if there's a prison on every block. Build more prisons, hire more guards, lock them up. That's taxpayer money well spent. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Now Roland in Arlington Heights.
Good morning, guys. You know, and I know, this guy will never be consecutive for 15 charges. It'll be all
concurrent.
Concurrent, yeah.
Thanks for the call, Roland. Yeah, I mean, the Cook County judges, it's a whole nother problem, starting with the chief judge who wants a special young adult court for 18 to 26-year-olds. Now, obviously, this guy doesn't fit that age, but, I mean, just speaks to the mentality. Leniency for violent criminals 18 to 26 because the prefrontal cortex in men isn't fully formed until it's actually, I think, a little older, like 28. But regardless, like, you don't know right from wrong by the time you're 18, and so let's treat this cohort, which is responsible young men for the preponderance of violent crime, the supermajority of violent crime. Let's treat them with kid gloves because of their unfully formed prefrontal cortex. I mean, this is literally Tim Evans's position.
And this thug, I mean, he's had arrests and convictions dating back to when he was 19 years old.
I just want to get this in, too, because this speaks to the culture here. I want to introduce you to number 23, brought to us by CWB. That's just this year. The Chicago man has been jailed to await trial after prosecutors said he viciously stabbed his ex's new boyfriend while on bail for a pending felony gun case. Commits an attempted murder. 23rd person accused of shooting, killing, or trying to shoot or kill someone in Chicago this year while awaiting trial for a felony. The cases involve at least 37 victims, 11 of whom died. That's what should shock your conscience, to borrow from Kim Fox. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Did you know most vitamin supplements have a warning label on the back? That's because without the synergy of thousands of nutrients working together that are found naturally in whole fruits and vegetables, vitamins are not balanced. This is why Balance of Nature only uses whole fruits and vegetables, no isolates or synthetic vitamins of any kind. We take a variety of 31 of the highest quality fruits and vegetables and remove the water without changing the rich chemistry. It's then ground to a powder, blended to perfection, and encapsulated, preserving the nutrients and making it easy to get the fruits and vegetables you need. So even though Balance of Nature comes in a capsule and looks like a vitamin, it's very different. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Do you want your child to come back from school hating God, America, and you? If the answer is no, the solution is St. John's Lutheran School in Lombard. Hi, I'm the man, Cal. Look, I'm a Christian guy with 2 daughters out in this world, and it can get very scary. St. John's Lutheran School Lombard is the only school in all of Illinois that offers the Hillsdale College curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade. It's a game changer, a nurturing environment with a Christian faith, traditional values, and critical thinking that teaches kids to think for themselves, not what to think. What a great thing to do for your child or grandchild. Strong academics with the Hillsdale curriculum and strong character. Go to stjohnslombard.com. That's Saint, S-T, johnslombard.com. stjohnslombard.com. It's in Lombard, Glen Ellen, Wheaton, Downers Grove, and all places nearby. stjohnslombard.com.
The Daily Herald 2022 Best of the Fox winner for Best Financial Planner is Total Clarity Wealth Management. The 2022 Reader's Choice Award winner for Best Wealth Management Firm and Best Financial Planner is Total Clarity Wealth Management. Are you ready for a change? Choose Total Clarity Wealth Management. With a professional team of financial advisors and CPAs, they can show you the way to financial readiness and keep you on track. Their philosophy is built on solid relationships and trust, with access to expertise in tax planning strategies, 401k rollover services, estate planning, and more. They can help you be ready for anything.
Hi, this is Terry Murphy. The cornerstone of our practice has been to help clients stay focused on their goals throughout life's changes.
Get in touch with them at TotalClarityWealth.com. That's TotalClarityWealth.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Total Clarity Wealth Management Inc., a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. Awards are based on number of reader votes. This award is not representative of the views of clients and is not indicative of future performance or services.
If your money is not earning at least 6% tax deferred, you need to call Professional Life and Casualty. They're offering a 6% APY on new funds deposited into your annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA accounts. Rate subject to change. Please call to confirm. Casualty, you pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Professional Life and Casualty has been providing insurance and annuity products for over 60 years. Visit plcinsurance.com. plcinsurance.com. They'll send you a free guide to tax-deferred, no-fee annuity. Earn 6% APY on annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA. Pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Only from Professional Life and Casualty. Call 1-800-651-1800. That's 1-800-651-1800.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
A new trove of emails from Robin Ware, Robert Peters, Bobby Peters. You know who those guys are, right?
Oh, yeah, those are Biden's emails, right?
Uh-huh. We're going to talk about
yeah.
them with JustTheNews.com's John Solomon, 636.
And later I do want to get to that new name for Halloween, because the kiddies are getting scared. And see how your trick-or-treat basket went last night, Dan. But now let's head into the newsroom. Mike, did you have any trick-or-treaters?
We did.
How many?
3 to 5, it was busy. After 5 o'clock, not so much.
I think people
Well,
go
that's
east
because of the snowpocalypse.
Yeah, well, we had a little bit of snow, and it was chilly.
We had a shovel. But then still people are just walking by. They're going east of Ashland where the real money is. Very sad. I only had 10 trick-or-treaters.
Yeah, well, that's because you hand out things like Smarties and Sweet Tarts. Hand out the real stuff, people come. 30 degrees at 6:33 on AM 560, The Answer. We're watching developments near Gaza this morning as Egypt is opening the Rafah crossing at the Gaza southern border for the first time since the Israel-Hamas war began, but only about 400 foreign and dual citizens, along with some injured, will make the crossing. Israel says fighter jets have killed a top Hamas commander in a Gaza refugee camp.
Israel says they were targeting Hamas militants and successfully carried out strikes, killing a number of militants, but officials inside of Gaza, including the Indonesian hospital in northern Gaza, they say dozens of civilians are dead and hundreds are injured.
The Israeli military details Tuesday's strike that killed Ibrahim Biari, commander with the Palestinian militant group. It claims he was pivotal in the planning and execution of the October 7 terror attacks. The head of the FBI says the threat of terrorism in the U.S. has hit a, quote, whole other level, end quote, following the Hamas terror attacks on Israel.
The actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration, the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate several years ago.
While testifying before a Senate panel yesterday, FBI Director Christopher Wray. A man charged in a mass shooting that wounded 15 this past weekend at an unsanctioned Chicago Halloween party will remain in custody. Risa Lanier is with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office did file a petition for Mr. Groves to be detained while awaiting trial on these charges, and that petition has just been granted.
Police say the suspect has a long criminal history dating back 20 years. William Groves faces 15 counts of attempted murder and unlawful use of a weapon, likely a .357, by a felon for the attack on Sunday. Police are reporting another in a string of attempted crash and grab robberies that happened yesterday in Chicago's Wicker Park neighborhood along North Milwaukee Avenue. Bears buyers at the NFL trade deadline bringing in Montez Sweat from Washington. The defensive end will cost the Bears a high second-round pick next year. Bulls take on Dallas tonight. The news, a service of MyPillow and those six-pack bath towel sets. They're back in stock. The proprietary technology makes them extremely absorbent. And for a limited time, get 50% savings with promo code LIBERTY. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Automated Systems Incorporated, HealthInsuranceMentors.com, and by Illinois Concealed Carry Training.
Hey, business owners, are you wondering how to grow your business? Do you need cash flow and a ready source for financing? Well, Signature Bank can help. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that Signature Bank's loan decisions are made locally by a team who knows your name, cares about your business, and is invested in your success. When you need advice about your business or even have a question, Signature Bank is there to help. There are no handoffs or call centers. This is a team that wants to get to know you and your business. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. When I call, someone picks up the phone on the other end. And with Signature Bank, I can securely bank anywhere, anytime. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630. That's 773-467-5630. Or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. Signaturebank.bank. Your business could be Signature Bank's next success story. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. The House of Representatives has a new speaker, Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Now, it's time for the People's House to get on with the people's business. There's a lot to do. The arc of history is bending as I speak to you. The question is whether it bends in the direction of freedom and the rule of law and human dignity, or in the direction of authoritarianism, barbarism, and vile anti-Semitism. Speaker Johnson gets it. His first order of business:
the first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we're going to stand for the good in that conflict.
It was a very impressive first speech. Speaker Johnson, congratulations and Godspeed. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. When you get aggravated and the news has you down, when the reality of Americanism being subverted by traitors, enemies, both foreign and domestic, get to you, I go to 120 Life because 120 Life has found the key naturally to controlling your blood pressure. They're a Chicago-based company, and they're doing something about Big Pharma having a monopoly on blood pressure. You see, naturally, you can control your blood pressure. 120 Life has made the best natural ingredients available to you in one drink. Pomegranate, tart cherries, cranberries, hibiscus, beetroot, and magnesium. All a natural way to lower your blood pressure. That's what's nice about it. It comes in an 8-ounce bottle. You can mix and match smoothies, out of the bottle, whatever you prefer. Visit 120life.com. That's 120life.com. You can order a 2-week trial pack. Using promo code Liberty, you save 15%, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Visit 120life.com. That's 120life.com. That's 120life.
Exergen thermometers are a top choice of medical professionals at highly ranked hospitals across the U.S. Accuracy matters, so make Exergen the chosen thermometer for your home and family.
The inbound Edens remains closed between Old Orchard and Dempster because of an accident. Tracking things as they begin to pick things up and perhaps reopen very quickly now. But right now, the inbound Edens is a mess. 55 minutes in climbing because of those problems near Old Orchard this morning. The Kennedy at an hour, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. You've got an accident on the outbound side of the Kennedy with a right lane block. Your delays between North Avenue and Addison. The Ike inbound, not so bad right now. It is 47,390 to the old post office. The Stevenson inbound right at DuSable Lakeshore Drive, northbound. There's multiple crashes on that ramp due to slick conditions. The Dan Ryan stands at 2395th into the Burns Circle interchange. The Bishop Ford remains closed due to icy conditions and crashes on the inbound side between the Stony Island feeder and 103rd. Traffic, a service of Staples stores. Amazing savings for the holiday season. Right now, save 50% on custom holiday cards and invitations, as well as custom photo gifts like mugs and calendars. Have yourself a little merry holiday deal at Staples. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Sunny, not as cold in your forecast, high 45, currently 30. Your next news update, 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks to a FOIA lawsuit from the Southern Eastern Legal Foundation, the National Archives disclosed this week that it has located 82,000 pages of potentially government-related emails from one Joe Biden, a.k.a. Robin Ware, a.k.a. Bobby Peters.
I like Bobby Peters the best.
I think it's good Robert, but I mean,
Well,
we're friendly. Bobby.
Well,
Bobby's fine.
That makes Hillary Clinton look pretty good, huh?
Yeah, and this is at least, well, this has to be attendant to his time in office, otherwise it wouldn't be a matter for the National Archives. So his time as vice president may be dating back to his time in the Senate, as we see some of Biden Inc. operations dating back to Mr. 10%'s time in the Senate. You know, the thing that upsets me most about this?
What?
Robin Ware, Bobby Peters. Where's the spicy pseudonym? Your Carlos Danger, your Pierre Delecto. You know, where's the creativity?
Pierre Delecto was Mitt Romney, right?
Correct,
that
yeah.
fun guy. When I
mean,
look at him, I think that's a good time right there.
Well, even a milquetoast guy like Mitt Romney came up with Pierre Delecto.
Right,
that's fun.
It's provocative.
The most important part of all this is that everybody has fun. This is entertainment. It's not like this is, important to the future of our republic or something like this, all the hand-wringing from Republicans about corruption and a compromised administration because of family intake and the millions from America's enemies and their representatives. That's not fun. Pseudonyms are fun, or they can be, but not if you use Robin Ware or Robert Peters. Come on.
Never trust a guy with two first names.
Sure. Yeah. For first rule of dating.
Yeah.
All right. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by award-winning investigative journalist, founder of Just the News, justthenews.com. It's been on this story, of course. John Solomon, if that is your real name. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It is. I have no pseudonym email accounts, I promise you.
All right. Well, so Hillary Clinton had 33,000 pages that, were accidentally wiped off a server. And Joe was using pseudonyms, so prying eyes didn't see the private conversations in which he expressed his fondness for Hunter and other people. Hunter Biden, the smartest guy he knows, and other people. I mean, should we be reading nefarious motives into this disclosure from the National Archives? We don't have the records yet because it's going to take them a while to compile those 82,000 pages, they say, probably, at least through November of next year, I'm sure. But, nefarious motives?
Well, listen, let's start with the most obvious thing. No matter how this turns out, no matter what's contained in the emails, one thing we're certain of is that during the Obama years, there was a complete rules for thee and the me, which is for all federal employees, you're not supposed to use private email except in rare circumstances. In the case of Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, they used it tens of thousands of times. It is a complete rejection of the Federal Records Act and all of the guidance that every federal employee, including Joe Biden, including Hillary Clinton, got about how to properly conduct government business on official email. On a secondary level, because the reason those rules exist is that private email is so much easier to hack. Just ask John Podesta, who had his emails hacked during the middle of the 2016 election.
Right.
So they are now transmitting sometimes sensitive information, in the case of Hillary Clinton, classified information in an insecure manner, putting the nation's secrets or the nation's sensitive information at risk. And so there's an arrogance and a rules for me and thee phenomenon that no matter what turns out to be in these documents, and we'll get these documents. I've been working with the Southeastern Legal Foundation since 2021 to get these documents. We're now have them identified, and we think the production could begin starting in January or February under our current schedule. But it's a pretty extraordinary stash of documents. And what we do know is some of the information that Joe Biden did transmit to his son from these private email accounts was extremely sensitive. I'll just give you one example because I think it gets lost in all this conversation. Back in 2014, the State Department embassy in Turkey found out that an American was about to be released from captivity. This has been a long-held American. It was a very sensitive situation. It could go either way, but the winds were blowing that he might be released. That embassy cable comes to the vice president's office. It's sent to Joe Biden's private account. Joe Biden then sends it to his son, who we know was a drug addict and had a lot of problems, had trouble keeping his laptop even. And he sends that information there before the gentleman is released, putting that potential release in jeopardy. Those are the sort of things that we know now that Joe Biden was transmitting to his son. Another time he transmits plans to have a conversation with the Ukrainian president before it happens. Again, a sensitive matter that a spy country would love to learn about. An enemy of ours spying on us would love to learn about. He transmits that to his son. And, oh, by the way, his son had a lot of interest in Ukraine because he had the Ukrainian business deal with Burisma Holdings. So Joe Biden not only thumbed his nose at the law here, in some cases that are already public, he sent very sensitive information in an insecure channel.
Well, do you think we'll find anything about 10% are paying the big guy in these emails?
I don't. Based on what I've learned about the ethos of how the family business ran, almost everything like that was done verbally, right? It was very rare to see, downstream from them, maybe with the business partners, they were more willing to put that in paper. But when it came to Joe and Hunter and James, there was a code of really anything sensitive being talked privately or done privately. much like these loan payments. A new loan payment is going to come out today. We're going to learn about that later today. So I think the code was don't say very much about Joe Biden in email, and you even see Hunter Biden in a few cases say that. Let's be careful what we say about the big guy or dad. And so I think the code was kind of mafia style. We don't talk about dad in email.
Exactly. It's the Tony Soprano code. Remember when he had to have that talk with Michael when Michael wanted to go to Hollywood and make films? He said, "What are you going to do? Fax me? This is a face-to-face business." And so it is with the Bidens, except you're also not supposed to lose your laptop with incriminating information on it. But, that's a rounding error thanks to the power structure being what it is in D.C. So on the production schedule, I'm just interested. I mean, I just have the feeling that there's going to be an effort to put this on the production schedule that, say, Pfizer is on for releasing all the information related to the development of the COVID vaccine, which is was on a 60 or 80-year production timeline. You said you expect to start getting the documents in January and February. Do you expect to get the full complement of documents well in advance of next November?
Well, what we're doing with the court in consultation with the Southeastern Legal Foundation, which brought this lawsuit in concert with us, is we're going to they want to do what's called rolling productions, which is every month drop a certain thousand numbers of pages of documents. What we're asking to do, and I think the court is amenable to, is to come up with the topic areas that we think are most important. Anything that mentions Ukraine, Burisma, Russia, Romania, any of the countries where Hunter Biden was doing, any of the business partners' names or the associates overseas whose names are there. So what we could do is use our acquired knowledge from the last 3 years of covering this scandal to tell the National Archives and the courts which documents they should release first. Usually the government is amenable to that. That's sort of how Judicial Watch did some of the Hillary Clinton emails. And it gives us a chance to get at things that we know are relevant to the current conversations before the election. No, that always can be abused. I'm not naive about that. And I also think, and you look at late last night, Congressman James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, said, hey, I'm going to get these from a different direction. He's going to use the power of the gavel, he said, to get these documents. So the FOIA lawsuit in Congress together, we've got a fighting chance of getting a good amount of these documents out before voters choose their next president next November.
Fair enough. The loans, you just mentioned the loans. The loans seem to be one of the features of the Biden Incorporated operation. Joe loans money to Jim and Jim, pays him back, we're told. A Chinese businessman loans $250,000 to Hunter, and then his Hollywood lawyer, Kevin Morris, assumes the loan debt. Anything troubling about loans between friends and family members?
Well, listen, I think James Comer hit this on the head a couple of weeks ago in the interview I did with him on my TV show, and he said a loan in the Biden lexicon really means gift or income. And why does he say that? Well, first off, you mentioned the story that we broke earlier this week where Hunter Biden gets a $250,000 loan from a Chinese businessman and someone else assumes the debt for him, his Hollywood lawyer friend. But it's actually much more consequential when it comes to federal law. Why do I say that? Because in the construction of the documents that the IRS agents, who are now the whistleblowers, uncovered, they found several instances where Hunter Biden was being paid pure income. It was just compensation from Burisma or another foreign client. And then he doctored his records to call this money a loan, and he evaded taxes on that. And so many times, according to the IRS whistleblowers, the loan construct was used to cheat the American taxpayer out of tax revenue that Hunter Biden owed. And at the end of the day, the Biden Justice Department, on one of the largest tranches of a fake loan that was actually income, actually decided to give Hunter Biden a pass. They have not charged him for tax evasion on $400,000 of income that Hunter Biden and his own lawyers and his own friends wrote in an email in 2017, hey, you cheated, you haven't paid these taxes. So Hunter Biden, there was contemporaneous proof Hunter Biden knew he was cheating on his taxes. The Biden Justice Department gave him a pass.
Well, what about the specific check from Jim Biden to his brother, Joe Biden, president now, for $200,000, which was written on March 1st, 2018?
So that is a very important document. The Democrats say, well, we can show that an entity that had something to do with Joe Biden sent money to James Biden, and then James Biden sends it back to Joe Biden. Now, that's consistent with some of the information that I've gathered, but there's one problem. If it was in a different corporate entity, and then it came back to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden put it in his personal account, which is what these records apparently show, from looking at them, he might have a tax consequence. So that is one of the big questions that Congress is going to ask for. The second part is, all right, James Biden borrowed money from Joe Biden. How did he pay it back? And the answer is he took money from a failing company, a rural healthcare company, under the auspices that he could trade the Biden family name for foreign business. So another example of foreign influence spending becoming the source of the income that's used to pay back Joe Biden. I don't think many Americans are going to feel very good about that they were taking money from a failing company. And no, the promise was we'll use the Biden name to open up foreign business, something that Joe Biden claimed never went on back when he was running for election.
You know what? I think the play for the Bidens is to pin this all on Robin Ware. It's not the big guy you want. It's Robin Ware.
Yeah.
That's the guy behind all this.
Let's put a bolo out for him. Yeah.
John Solomon is an award-winning investigative journalist. You just understood why with all the work that he's doing. Just the News is an indispensable outlet that he founded, justthenews.com. John, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Great pleasure to be with you guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Urgent Camp Lejeune settlement message. On September 6th, the government announced it will soon begin providing fast, guaranteed settlements to Camp Lejeune Marines, families, and civilians. Awards will range between $100,000 and $550,000, with an option for higher amounts. If you or a loved one spent time at Camp Lejeune and suffered cancers of the bladder, liver, or kidneys, leukemia, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Parkinson's, or kidney issues, you may qualify for compensation and could be paid within 60 days after accepting your settlement, with your VA benefits fully protected. You may be entitled to a significant financial award for your Camp Lejeune claim, but you must act now. Call the James Harris Law Camp Lejeune helpline now to get the compensation you deserve. We're already fighting for thousands harmed by the water at Camp Lejeune. Call now or you may forever lose your right to be awarded a settlement between $100,000 and $550,000. For your free evaluation, call 800-299-7878. That's 800-299-7878. 800-299-7878.
Do you know how many Americans have no or unscorable credit? 47 million people. And they would benefit from a Team Hochberg Fresh Start secured credit card with no annual fees. A Team Hochberg Fresh Start credit is perfect if your vindictive ex destroyed your credit, you recently filed for or were discharged from bankruptcy, if you experienced a foreclosure or short sale, have collections, or you were turned down for credit, or one of your kids is having trouble securing their first credit card. Team Hochberg partnered with Kane County Teachers Credit Union to offer the Team Hochberg Fresh Start secured credit card with no annual fee to help reestablish, enhance, and strengthen listeners with no damaged or challenged credit. For more information about this, just do this. Go to 56david.com/fresh start. That's 56david.com/fresh start to establish, enhance, and strengthen your credit. Team Hochberg has helped thousands of AM 560 listeners, but he can't help you if you don't visit 56david.com/fresh start. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061.
Did you know most vitamin supplements have a warning label on the back? That's because without the synergy of thousands of nutrients working together that are found naturally in whole fruits and vegetables, vitamins are not balanced. This is why Balance of Nature only uses whole fruits and vegetables, no isolates or synthetic vitamins of any kind. We take a variety of 31 of the highest quality fruits and vegetables and remove the water without changing the rich chemistry. It's then ground to a powder, blended to perfection, and encapsulated, preserving the nutrients and making it easy to get the fruits and vegetables you need. So even though Balance of Nature comes in a capsule and looks like a vitamin, it's very different. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Structural foundation problems? Permaseal can help. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. Last year's severe drought has homeowners across Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana experiencing symptoms of structural foundation issues. Cracked brickwork or caulking, uneven floors, new cracks in the drywall or ceiling, doors or windows that no longer open or shut properly, or basement walls that are leaning or bowing. All of these can be signs of a structural foundation issue. Too often we hear of homeowners paying for an expensive consultation just to determine the problem. Don't be one of them. Call Permaseal today at 800-421-SEAL. Our certified structural consultants will thoroughly evaluate your foundation and offer you a permanent solution at absolutely no charge. Life's frustrating enough. Let's fix what we can and avoid even bigger problems. Call Permaseal today, 800-421-7325, or visit permaseal.net.
Known best for being better, Permaseal.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
All right, we just updated you on Biden Inc. with John Solomon. At 7:07, we'll update you on the Trump trials with former federal and state prosecutor George Perry, 7:07.
But now into the newsroom we go. Here's Mike Scott.
A man charged at a Halloween party shooting remains in custody. WIND Chicago News Time, 7 o'clock.
War against Hamas following last month's terror attack, but not everyone can go yet, including a U.S. citizen who tells Fox's Trey Yingst in Israel it's
time for the American administration to take us back home. The situation in Gaza Strip, it's getting worse.
She's inside Gaza with her 10-year-old son. She says he was on the list to leave through the Rafah crossing today, but she was not. So she's not going to send him across alone with no one to meet him on the other side.
Now in Gaza, Hamas claims Israel is hitting a refugee camp with airstrikes a second day. It's alleged hundreds of deaths and injuries are there. Israel says it's targeting militants operating in that camp and has killed a top Hamas commander. After weeks of pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses,
the FBI arrested a suspect who they say was behind very graphic online threats to kill Jewish students at Cornell University. According to the Department of Justice, 21-year-old Patrick Dye, a junior at Cornell, was charged with posting threats to kill using interstate communications.
That's Fox's Bill Malugin. A hearing in Colorado will continue a third day in a lawsuit attempting to block former President Trump from being on that state's 2024 election ballot, alleging his conduct leading up to the Capitol riot disqualifies the former president under a Civil War-era provision in the Constitution's 14th Amendment. There are similar cases looming in Michigan and Minnesota. Meanwhile, Donald Trump Jr. will testify today at a civil fraud trial.
The $250 million lawsuit filed by New York Attorney General Letitia James accuses the former president, Don Jr., and Eric Trump, as well as the Trump Organization executives, of purposely inflating the value of Trump's net worth by billions in order to get better deals on insurance and loan rates.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. America's listening to Fox News. 30 degrees, 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A man charged in a shooting that wounded 15 this past weekend at an unsanctioned Halloween party on the west side remains in custody. Risa Lanier is with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office did file a petition for Mr. Groves to be detained while awaiting trial on these charges, and that petition has just been granted.
Police say the suspect has a long criminal history dating back over 20 years. William Groves faces 15 counts of attempted murder and unlawful use of a weapon by a felon for the attacks early Sunday morning. Illinois State Police releasing a video showing a state trooper being shot last week in Springfield. Authorities say the footage clearly shows Cristobal Santana of Chicago pulling out a gun and firing and hitting Trooper Dakota Chapman Green. Chapman Green's father, Jimmy, thanked first responders and the law enforcement community for taking care of his family.
Can't thank everybody enough for all the thoughts and prayers. We just want our boy to get better. He loves being a trooper, and he'll never quit being a trooper. He has one speed. Let's go. I can't slow him down. I've tried.
Santana severely beat the trooper with his gun and then drove away before being arrested a couple of hours later. Santana is also wanted for a murder here in Chicago. Chicago aldermen are advancing Mayor Johnson's so-called mansion tax.
Housing is a human right, and homelessness is up 12% since 2019, and black Chicagoans account for almost 70% of the unhoused population.
City Council committee approved a measure that would ask voters about raising the real estate transfer tax. If approved, the measure would put the question on the March 2024 ballot. Bears buyers at the NFL trading deadline bringing in Washington defensive end Montez Sweat for a second-round pick. Bulls take on Dallas tonight. The news a service of MyPillow. The MyPillow six-pack bath towel sets are back in stock, providing you that soft feel you look for in a towel. For a limited time, 50% savings with promo code LIBERTY. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Best Dental Group of Bartlett, the Illinois Family Institute, and by Alpha Wealth Group.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Pure Talk, America's wireless company, is on a mission to alleviate $10 million in military debt by Veterans Day, but they're going to need your help. Now, Pure Talk will donate a percentage of every new order to this great cause. When you make the switch, they make it simple, fast, and easy to their super fast 5G network. Talk, text, plenty of data now, only at $20 a month. Do it right now. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword SAVE NOW. Make the switch to Pure Talk, and you can help a military member in need.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm Carolyn. I have been in private practice of physician's physical therapy for 35 years.
And you're going to come in, but breathe. Yep, perfect.
I open up at 4 a.m. and I'll go on till 10 a.m. and it's day after day. And as you can see by the equipment here, we are intensely active. People watch, they observe, and people say, Carolyn, what's your secret? And I say it's from proper diet, proper exercise, and of course through Balance of Nature. I'm 60, but since taking Balance of Nature, I feel the energy level of 27. I've been taking Balance of Nature for several years and I love it. I endorse it, I believe in it, and I would recommend it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
It's 7:07. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And on the Edens, it remains shut down on the inbound side. The exit is closed due to an accident that's inbound between Old Orchard and Dempster. You have solid traffic from Willow Road right now. It's an hour on the inbound Edens from Lake Cook Road on into the junction. The Kennedy is at 90 minutes, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike at about 30 minutes in from Manheim to the old post office. Stevenson, slick conditions, bottling up the exit ramp to DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound. Plenty of crashes there due to slick conditions. Stevenson inbound is right now in from the Tri-State at 50 minutes to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, 28, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Tri-State, an accident, 2 left lanes blocked northbound between the Mylong Bridge and the Stevenson. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, mostly sunny skies. A high today at 45. Partly cloudy, chilly night tonight, low 34. And then partly sunny, breezy tomorrow, the high 52. Cloudy skies on Friday. A bit of a warm-up, the high Friday 57. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
29 officially at O'Hare. Next news at 7:30. Breaking news as it happens. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is sponsored by TJ Stearns Financial Planning. Certified financial planner Tim Stearns holds a weekly discussion of the financial challenges to secure retirement. Listen Saturday at noon for Protect and Grow with Tim Stearns.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
And Amy, so federal district court judge Tanya Hang'em High Chutkin, at least hang 'em high when it comes to anything January 6th related. You'll note that the good judge has imposed some of the stiffest sentence on those convicted of crimes related to January 6th, sometimes going beyond prosecutors' recommendations in imposing sentence. She reinstituted the gag order on former President Trump. She agreed based on prosecutors' argument that Trump's recent social media comments about his former chief of staff, that would be Mark Meadows, represented an attempt to influence and intimidate a likely witness in the case. Trump responded, "I've just learned the very biased Trump-hating judge in D.C. who should have recused herself due to her blatant and open loathing of your favorite president, me, jeez, has reimposed a gag order which will put me at a disadvantage against my prosecutorial and political opponents," although invective directed toward the judge or his opponent, that would be President Biden, is exempted. He went on to say, "This order, according to many legal scholars, is unthinkable," including the quote-unquote legal scholars at the ACLU, which filed a brief on behalf of Trump, actually. He goes on, "It illegally and unconstitutionally takes away my First Amendment right to free speech in the middle of my campaign for president, where I'm leaning against both parties in the polls. Few can believe this is happening, but I will appeal. How can they tell the leading candidate that he and only he is seriously restricted from campaigning in a free and open manner? It will not stand." Will it? An interesting note on this. Former Attorney General Eric Holder, Obama's personal attorney, you remember.
Yes.
According to him. The Law and Order guy who is infamous for things like Fast and Furious, getting guns to Mexican drug cartels, is infamous for eavesdropping on reporters using the power of the Department of Justice. Yeah. He said that, look, any other defendant would probably be facing jail time for what Trump has communicated publicly. However, he also stressed he would be, quote, extremely reluctant, unquote, to put Trump in jail for violating the gag order. Rather, he suggests fines and the like if and when Trump crosses the line in the estimation of one Judge Chutkin. Well, let's explore that a little bit in the larger context of the state of the Trump trials. George Perry joins us. He's a former federal and state prosecutor, regular contributor to the American Spectator, and he blogs at knowledgeisgood.net. George, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. George? Do we have George?
George,
yes. There's George.
Good morning.
Hey, George.
Hello.
Hello. So let me have you address this talking point of the left with respect to the gag order that was on, off, now back on. With what Trump has said, any other criminal defendant similarly situated would be in prison, would be in pretrial detention. Is that true?
No. First of all, there wouldn't be a gag order. And as far as pretrial detention, this is a first. I actually agree with Eric Holder. They'd be crazy to put Trump in prison. I mean, the guy, that would just, so far, every indictment, every lawsuit has done nothing but increase his popularity among the electorate. If they put that guy in prison, just stand back.
I agree, but that's a political calculation by Eric Holder, who's just a law and order man. Imagine the left contemplating politics when deciding what to do with respect to the law.
Yeah, Mr. Law and Order, Eric Holder. No, well, that's a political calculation. But look, there wouldn't be a gag order. I don't care what these judges say. There just wouldn't be a gag order. I mean, I've represented plenty of elected officials and other public figures who've been able to say whatever the heck they want about the judge, the court, the prosecutor, witnesses. And, that's never been a consideration. But now with Trump, they have these gag orders. We not only have the gag order from Judge Chutkan, we have the gag order up in New York from this Judge Engeron.
Right.
In the, that cockamamie civil action that the New York Attorney General has pending against Trump. So,
but George, Trump's comments are undermining people's confidence in courts of law, thereby imperiling our democracy, aren't they?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and the other laugher is he's going to influence the jury pool in Washington, D.C. and in Manhattan. Are you kidding me?
They're a funny group. Some of these judges and prosecutors and former attorney generals, a funny group. As I mentioned, sort of the ACLU weighing in on behalf of Trump with respect to this gag order in D.C. That's a moment.
Yeah,
that's a sign of the apocalypse. As best as I can figure, we're in the end times right now, and you got the ACLU coming out on Trump's behalf. But look, it's such a blatant violation of the First Amendment, this gag order, that even the ACLU had to acknowledge it. How bad is that?
Well, they're trying to stop him from campaigning, from getting his voice out there.
They want to stop him from campaigning.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's really, on top of the intention behind the gag order, I think that they're really just trying to wear him down to the point where he's just going to throw up his hands. If you look at what's going on in New York now, in that civil action, the Attorney General's office wants to put Trump's children, or they're not children, his offspring,
right, on
the stand and have them testify. Why do they want to do that? What could they possibly add to the case? The case has already been decided by the judge in Manhattan against Trump. So what's the purpose of having Trump's offspring, 2 sons and daughter, testify in that case? It's a perjury trap.
Right.
That's all it comes down to. So how do you bring a man to his knees? You go after his kids. I mean, it's almost a legal form of kidnapping. If the kidnapper can get the parent to do whatever the kidnapper wants. If you want to see your kid again, if you don't want to see terrible things happen to your kid, then do what I tell you to do. That's what we're looking at in this otherwise ridiculous New York case. So
in that New York case, assuming, as you say, that the decision has already been reached. Now they're just going through the process to try to legitimize it. Do you have any doubt that banishing the Trump organization from doing business in New York in New York State will be overturned on appeal?
Not in the New York court system. I mean, the Court of Appeals did put some limits on this action in terms of how, applying the statute of limitations to certain of the claims, which came as a bit of a surprise. But if they go for the kill shot on Trump's business licenses and just try and absolutely destroy his holdings and his operation in New York, I don't see anybody in the New York judicial system, which is political from top to bottom, having the nerve to step forward and put an end to it.
But has this ever happened before, where they drive a man out of business in the state of New York and in Manhattan?
Well, I've seen it happen in Philadelphia, but none of my clients were running for president. Look, I mean, what people need to understand is because somebody puts a black robe on and is handed a little wooden hammer and gets up there on the bench, what distinguishes that lawyer from any other lawyer is the fact that he knows the governor or that he ran for election. I mean, in Pennsylvania, we elect our judges, God help us. And so the whole process in and of itself is political.
Well, we do the same we do the same in Cook County, and we couldn't have a better judicial system. Of course, I'm kidding. That's hilarious. Yeah, another punchline here when we're talking about the criminal justice system. But just on the legal aspects of this, if this is the kangaroo court that it appears to be, couldn't Trump have this removed to federal court and file a civil rights action against the Attorney General?
He could try and file a civil rights action after the fact. I don't see how he would get this removed to federal court. I don't see that as a viable maneuver. But I mean, what's Trump going to do? What are his kids going to do when they're called to the stand? I mean, this judge Trump's already testified once in connection with Judge Engeron. That's the New York judge. He's already testified once in regard to the judge's gag order. And the judge has said, I find your testimony to not be credible. So we already have one finding that Trump lied under oath. So what do you do when you're faced with that bitter choice? If you go in there and say, I'm taking the fifth, I'm not answering any questions, well, that's political ammunition that you're handing to your opposition. So I mean, look, if I was representing Trump, I would tell him we got to thread the needle here. I'd just give him a pre-prepared statement. You know, this is a political show trial. This judge is corrupt. He's already decided the case. There's no point in testifying. We have a politically motivated and corrupt attorney general who will charge me with perjury no matter what I say. And so I'm taking the fifth, not because I'm guilty of anything, but because this is a corrupt proceeding and presided over by a corrupt judge, and anything I say will be used against me by this corrupt attorney general. You know, words to that effect.
Now, George Perry, I just wanted to move on because last week you wrote an article about what killed George Floyd. Have you gotten any pushback from that? And we should tell people, too, they could read it at knowledgeisgood.net.
Well, this time around I didn't. I've been writing about that subject for years now. I mean, right when George Floyd died, as soon as I got a hold of the autopsy report and read it, I concluded that those police officers had not killed George Floyd. As a matter of fact, if you review the body camera video of their interaction with George Floyd, they did nothing to harm the man. And as a matter of fact, were quite considerate of him as they're trying to get him into the patrol car while he's still upright and mobile. He's shouting, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Don't put me in that car. So what do these cops do? One of them says, we'll roll down the window. And another one says, we'll turn on the air conditioning. These are the brutal cops that we're being told are so brutal that they choked out this man in front of a crowd with cell phone cameras before effectively the entire world. They did it right out there in the open. That's what we've been told. That's what the state of Minnesota has pushed from day one. And so this article that I did last week was just a recap of what I had written before. This was a terrible injustice.
Well, the new information that we have comes from civil depositions by former Hennepin County prosecutors, in which one who filed a sexual discrimination suit against the former chief prosecutor in Hennepin County said that the conversation she had with the coroner, initially he said that I can't find asphyxiation as a cause of death here, and asked her, how do you say something that won't be believed by the entire world that has already bought the determination in the public that it was the cops who killed George Floyd. Now, she also, prosecutors that testified in that civil trial, all were deposed in that civil trial, also did separate this. We would have gone for second-degree murder with respect to Chauvin, separating Chauvin from the other cops. He violated procedure. There's other problems with what Chauvin did. But the other cops, they couldn't make out a case, and this was a point of contention between some of these rank-and-file prosecutors and the district attorney there. And so my question is, based on those depositions from former Hennepin County prosecutors, wouldn't the cops not named Derek Chauvin have a pretty good case to demand a retrial?
Well, they've been convicted by a jury, a terrified jury in a war zone, I might add. But they've been convicted, and getting that undone is going to be very difficult. And understand, what came out in that deposition was actually known back as it was happening. The medical examiner in Hennepin County, when he published his first draft of his autopsy findings, he said, look, there was no damage to the neck structures. There was no sign of asphyxiation, basically, if you read through the whole thing. And what happened? Well, number one, the DA or the county attorney was unhappy with that. But then the medical examiner got this phone call from the medical examiner in Washington, D.C., a very angry and political man who said, look, you don't want to be the only smart person in the room who doesn't see what's obvious. In other words, get on board with changing your report to indicate that the police killed Floyd. And so what the medical examiner in Hennepin County did was he came out with a revised report where the physical findings remained the same, but then he just threw in some crazy line about some connection to police subdual, whatever subdual is. And he then got on the stand and testified, in effect, and he admitted this on cross. I couldn't find any physical signs, but my overall conclusion is, this was caused by what the cops did. I mean, it was just a stunning performance. And in the course of these depositions you're talking about, the medical examiner said to one of the prosecutors, look, what do you do when the physical evidence doesn't match up with the narrative? This is the kind of thing that can end careers.
Right.
Which was just a perfect statement of chickening out in the face of adversity. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, and he had cardiac arrhythmia, he had high blood pressure, he had hypertension, and he also had fentanyl and meth in his system. And I don't think that was broadcast enough during the trial.
Well, it came out on cross-examination. And look, I never want to criticize Nelson, the defense lawyer, because he was the guy in the trenches. I thought it took a lot of guts for him to take that case and litigate it in that court and under those circumstances, because basically it was mob rule. Yeah. But that came out, but not in a very effective manner. And what you had really was sudden onset cardiac arrhythmia, because Floyd had severe coronary artery disease. He had a history of hypertension. He had enough fentanyl in his system to kill an elephant. And you combine that with the methamphetamine he had in his system, that increases the likelihood of sudden onset cardiac arrhythmia. So There are plenty of other reasons for Floyd to be dead, none of them having to do with what the police officers did. But Minneapolis had been burned to the ground. At the beginning of Chauvin's case, the mayor of Minneapolis forks over $27 million to the Floyd family. Everybody on that jury knew it, and everybody on that jury knew, I am sure, because they're walking in and out of a courthouse that's surrounded by concrete barriers and barbed wire. They knew that if they didn't come back with a conviction, they could be next. So,
George Perry, former federal and state prosecutor, regular contributor to the American Spectator. He blogs at knowledgeisgood.net. George, thank you as always.
Okay, nice to be with you.
Yes, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts, knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, I'm Raquel.
And I'm Babette.
Here to invite you to listen to our show, Belly of the Beast,
where we tackle all the hot topics and issues that you are talking about today.
So join us each week for our
hard-hitting,
fun,
informative,
topical,
out there
radio show where we leave nothing on the table.
Belly of the Beast, heard every Saturday evening at 7, right here on AM 560, The Answer. And follow us on Facebook at Belly of the Beast IL.
Lots of channels, nothing to watch, especially if you're looking outside of big corporate control. It's time to interrupt your regularly scheduled programs with something worth watching. The new Salem News Channel. Straightforward, unfiltered, in-depth insight and analysis from the greatest collection of conservative minds, all in one place. SNC is home to Dennis Prager, Mike Gallagher, Sebastian Gorka, and more. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find what you're looking for at snc.tv. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37, is there nothing Biden and Harris can't do? President Biden cured cancer. Kamala Harris got to the root causes of immigration from the Northern Triangle countries. And now, between the two of them, they are going to shepherd the development of AI. What is AI? Oh, Kamala Harris will explain it to you when we visit with Steve Moore at 7:37.
And later, now we have to worry about kidnappings in Chicago in broad daylight. We'll explain. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
29 degrees at 7:33. According to the White House, President Biden will veto a package put forward by House GOP members to provide aid to Israel. The package would cut funding from the IRS. Jewish students at colleges across America are facing anti-Semitic threats amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. Law enforcement taking action at one university, as Fox's Brooke Singman reports.
New York State Police arrested 21 into custody just days after several disturbing anti-Semitic messages were posted in an online discussion forum. Dye allegedly posted these wildly disturbing posts with language that called for the killing of Jewish students. He also allegedly threatened to bring an assault rifle to campus. He's charged with death threats using interstate communications, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, and 3 years on parole. Threats like the ones allegedly made by Dye are popping up at universities across the country.
Dye is expected to be arraigned today in a federal courtroom. The governor of Kentucky moments ago declared a local emergency after 2 people became trapped in the collapse of a 10-story coal plant. Governor Andy Beshear posted this morning on Twitter that he signed an executive order declaring an emergency in Martin County. A man charged in a mass shooting that wounded 15 people this past weekend at an unsanctioned Halloween party on Chicago's West Side will remain in custody. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling.
He's a convicted felon who shouldn't have had a gun. Again, he's a convicted felon who should not have had a gun.
Police say the suspect has a long criminal history dating back over 20 years. William Groves faces 15 counts of attempted murder and unlawful use of a weapon by a felon for the attack early on Sunday. No one hurt following a crash that involved at least 18 vehicles in suburban Madison. Police responded to the accident last night on Volmer Road on an overpass over I-57. The TSA has confiscated a record number of firearms at Chicago's Midway Airport. The latest gun to be found in a carry-on bag was found last Friday. The TSA has found 43 guns at Midway so far this year. The Bears were buyers at the NFL trade deadline, sending out a high second-round pick to Washington for defensive end Montez Sweat. Bulls aim to get above 500 when they visit Dallas later tonight. College hoops, Northwestern hosting McKendree. The news, a service of Tom Mirabali Insurance. No matter the time of year, you can purchase a PPO health insurance plan that eliminates the mandatory maternity coverage. Get started at healthplanchicago.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Bishop's Hill Winery, Woodland Windows and Doors, and by Bone Frog Coffee Company.
If your car goes on the fritz, you rush to the garage for repairs. But if you've got high blood pressure, well, what do you do then? 1 out of 2 adults have high blood pressure. It's not a rare occurrence. It's not like a super blue moon. And the thing is, managing it has gotten so much easier. Now you can get help from a small bottle of juice from my friends at 120 Life. It's a natural juice drink that helps lower your blood pressure without enriching Big Pharma or the side effects of pills. The juice has pomegranates, tart cherries, cranberry, hibiscus, beetroot, and magnesium, all natural ingredients that help control my blood pressure. I'm taking it. I love it. Go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com. and order their 2-week trial pack. Order it now. Enjoy risk-free money-back guarantee. If you don't see lower blood pressure numbers in 2 weeks, you get your money back. You're not going to see that from Big Pharma. Use coupon code LIBERTY at checkout. Save 15%. 120life.com. We need more stuff like this. You've heard me talk about my love of coffee over and over again. I'm here to tell you I have discovered one of the best brews I've ever tasted and a company that I cannot wait to support. I'm here to tell you about Bone Frog Coffee. The Bone Frog is a sacred symbol in the SEAL teams. It honors those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, their lives. Bone Frog was founded by Tim Crook Shank, a former Navy SEAL and 25-year Navy veteran. Bone Frog honors the fallen, those who gave everything for our freedoms and our American way of life, by giving 10% of all the proceeds to benefit many of the U.S. Navy SEAL foundations. Here's what I need you to do. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. Get 10% off your first order. You will also get 15% off Bone Frog Coffee subscriptions. Just enter Liberty at checkout. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. That's bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. Taste one of the best brews you ever tasted. 10% of the proceeds go to benefit the Navy SEALs. You'll feel good. It's an American company. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty.
Gillette Intimate gives guys a gentle and easy shave. Don't treat yourself like junk. Respect it with Gillette Intimate, the best a man can get. Buy now at a retailer near you.
7:39, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Outbound Edens, you've got an accident on the left shoulder between Peterson and Old Orchard. Back inbound, 76 minutes. It's just a mess from Lake Cook Road into the Jackson, all from the earlier slick conditions and several accidents that are still being cleaned up on the inbound side between Old Orchard and Dempster. Kennedy is at just about an hour and 40 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange and climbing right now. Inbound Ike, it's an hour from 390 into the old post office. Inbound Stevenson, it's an hour and 19 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, 38, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. 394 remains shut down northbound between Sauk Trail and US 30 due to several spin-out accidents. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sunny and not as cold, high 45 today. Still chilly overnight, low 34. 29 at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas. Best beans, best roast, best coffee. Online at papanicholas.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka. Weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Like most Americans, I don't pay attention to what politicians do or the impact of their policy choices. I just listen to what they say. And so I'm remarkably impressed by the Biden-Harris administration. I mean, I remember back at the end of the Obama years, the first two terms of the Joe Obama administration, President Biden, then Vice President Biden, cured cancer. I remember when Kamala Harris was tapped to get to the root causes of outmigration from the Northern Triangle countries in Latin America, and she did. And we have challenges at the border, but there's certainly not a crisis, and the monitoring is sufficient. They're very vigilant. And now we have them turning their attention to the development of artificial intelligence. What's artificial intelligence, you ask?
It's AI.
Great question, and Kamala explains it.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's two letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
If that baffled you, that's because Kamala is a next-level thinker. So don't expect to understand and operate at the level that she's operating. But the two of them did get together to announce, thankfully, that they're going to make sure that AI, or artificial intelligence, as that's what those two letters stand for, you just heard, make sure it's done safely and there's no algorithmic discrimination. Kamala Harris and the big guy at the White House yesterday explaining, first the lead dog, Kamala.
All to help make sure that the benefits of AI are shared equitably and to address predictable threats, such as algorithmic discrimination, data privacy violations, and deepfakes. We named it the Blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights, after which President Biden and I had extensive engagement with the leading AI companies to help ensure the private sector commits to the principles in the blueprint.
It's wonderful. Again, AI stands for artificial intelligence. Joe Biden
two letters.
Was then allowed to chime in, and he explained, the reality of just one aspect of what they're covering in this Bill of Rights, the deep fakes that can occur.
It's already happening. AI devices are being used to deceive people. Deep fakes use AI-generated audio and video to smear reputations, spread fake news, and commit fraud. With AI, fraudsters can take 3-second, and you all know this, 3-second recording of your voice. I've watched one of me on a couple times. I said, when the hell did I say that? But all kidding aside.
Yeah, no, because he's not joking. He never is. The country is fortunate to have such tech-savvy leadership, I say. What does Steve Moore say? Economist, Govzilla author. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys. And I am just so assured and reassured that we're in good shape, because I found that to be a very prescient description of machine learning. I'd never really understood it before. Now I get it. Thank you, Kamala.
There's these machines, and then they produce content. Yeah, and then they learn from the content they produce and produce more content and so on and so forth. So we need this Bill of Rights.
Now I get it, Dan. See, I didn't understand that before. Now, I got a kick out of the president and Kamala saying, we have to make sure that we don't have misinformation and fake news and all these things. I'm like, oh, does that mean we're finally going to get rid of the New York Times?
Hey-o.
Yeah, right. So what about this Bill of Rights, though? I mean, the federal government getting in to shepherd the development of AI per this executive order to make sure there's no discrimination, that AI is developed with equity in mind. That's the important thing.
So here's the thing. This is a really important little quick history lesson. So back in the, early 90s, when the Internet was first invented by Al Gore. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember. Sure.
So when the Internet was really just a new thing, and I know you got a lot of young listeners who probably, you mean there was a time there wasn't an Internet? Yeah, there was a time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the government, and I'll give Bill Clinton some credit here, the government made a really, really good, wise decision, which is very unusual for Washington. What we basically said is we're going to let this be the Wild West. We're going to make it tax-free, we're going to make the Internet regulation-free, and we're going to make it lawsuit-free. And it's just going to be everybody go out there like a land rush and do what you can. And we saw the biggest explosion of technology with great, massive trillion-dollar companies like Google and Apple and Amazon and da-da-da. And it was an incredible success story. And America led the way in the Internet. And we have, the 7 largest technology companies in the world are American companies, in large part because we didn't regulate it. We didn't put all these restrictions on it. We should not do that with AI. This is the next big thing. And what's going to happen with AI is so damn exciting. I mean, I was at a conference with one of the leading designers of some of this stuff. I mean, literally, people are going to be able to get up out of their wheelchairs and walk. People who, never were able to move their limbs through this incredible technology. We're going to see incredible advances that advance, human well-being. And let's just keep the government out of it. Do you think Kamala Harris should be the policeman of the artificial intelligence?
Yeah, but I mean, there's another aspect to this where, people like my pastor feel that AI is going to destroy humanity, that eventually we are going to be replaced by robots.
like in Terminator, right?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's already happening.
Well, it's
Our
happening at
Secretary of
White
State's a robot.
Hey.
Yeah.
No, but it's happening at like White Castle. They've replaced all their fry cooks with robots programmed by AI, and you know what's going on? They're more accurate. Service is increasing as well as order accuracy.
Exactly. So here's another example. Everybody's talking about EVs, and I have my column this week about how the EV thing is really just a big bust. The car companies are losing so much money. That's what happens when you have the government leading investment. It always fails. But you have this situation now with that people are forgetting that the next big thing in cars is not necessarily electric vehicles. It is automated cars, and they're coming. In fact, in California, they're on the road already. And 90% of accidents on the roads are due to human error, not auto malfunctions. So you'll have much more safety. People will be able to, you'll be able to literally push a button. You can go anywhere you want. You don't have to have mass transit and trains and all this stuff. And that's our lives are going to improve so dramatically over the next 30 or 40 years. Now, look, I take your point, Amy. There are downsides to this. And it is true that you're going to have, it's going to be hard to determine what's reality and what's fake, because they can do amazing things. They can say, Don Props say, we need more communism and socialism in this country.
Yeah, well, that's where you get the watermarks and the other features of this Bill of Rights to ensure that people like the president aren't buffaloed by this AI work product. I mean, again, who would you want to shepherd this? Kamala Harris or Sam Altman and Elon Musk and those types of people that are just filthy, greedy business persons.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's really rich for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris talking about a new Bill of Rights. What's wrong with the old Bill of Rights that we have that they want to tear up and shred? I mean, what happened to First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, Third Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights? All of these things have been shred, and they have a lot of nerve to say, but we're going to have a new Bill of Rights for artificial intelligence. I think the Bill of Rights we have right now will solve a lot of these problems if we would just abide by those Bill of Rights.
Hey, you mentioned EVs. Interesting study out of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. The complete costs of fueling an electric vehicle for 10 years amount to $17.33 per equivalent gallon of gasoline. So the $1.21 cost per gallon equivalent that's cited by EV advocates excludes all the other costs. Of course it does. In terms of subsidies, utility ratepayers for energy investments, non-electric vehicle owners for mandate and environmental credit-driven higher vehicle costs, and so forth. But $17.33 per equivalent gallon of gasoline for the EVs, I mean, it's going to cost a little bit more to save the world.
Except you don't understand, though, that that $17 isn't going to be paid by the person, driving the car.
Well, it takes
it's
a
all
village.
Going to be paid by the government.
It takes a village. Takes a village to drive an EV.
Socializing, exactly. We're socializing all of these costs. And the whole thing is, there's kind of a good cartoon the other day we had in the hotline. It just showed, okay, here's what happens when you have a car that's, that's powered by gas. You have the car, and then you have the gas, you fill it with gas, and then you get emissions out of the tailpipe, right? Oh, no, we can't have emissions out of tailpipe. That's causing global warming. So instead what we're going to do is have the car, and it's not using gas. It's got a battery. But where did the battery come from? How do we charge that? Oh, yeah, emissions come out of the coal plant or the gas plant. So
that's so much better. That's so much. So much better. I did have. I wanted to tackle this with you as well because I'm pretty skeptical of antitrust laws, but I got to admit, in this case, I'm tempted. The National Association of Realtors just was found liable under antitrust laws to the tune of almost $2 billion for conspiring to fix the prices that real estate agents charge, the 5 to 6% commissions that real estate agents charge, and this turns out to be 2 to 3 times as high in other wealthy countries where self-serving industry arrangements don't exist. And then, of course, it inflates the price of homes. What's your take on that judgment in that case?
Well, I take a lot of pride in this decision because you can look this up. When I was at the Wall Street Journal editorial page, that was 15 years ago or so, and I was one of the first editorials I wrote, and took up the whole practical page, was called "The Realtor Racket," and this was one of the first major pieces calling attention to what this kind of price fixing that the realtor industry has created. And I'm with you. I don't normally like antitrust laws, but these folks have colluded together to stop competition and to force people to pay 6% realtor fees when they buy and sell a house, which is ridiculous. Those fees should be at most half that amount. And you can't. It's almost impossible. If you want to just buy or sell your home yourself, they don't restrict who can see it and things like that. So this is going to save billions and billions and billions of dollars to homeowners and to home buyers. It's a good thing. Let's have a little more competition. This is a true monopoly that the real estate industry has created, these realtors, and it's unfair, and it's driving up home costs. And so this is going to lead to more competition, and so I'm thrilled by this.
And now let me just play devil's advocate, represent the realtors here. They will say, look, we can't tell people, our competitors what our commissions are. This is the way to wall off any sort of collusion when it comes to pricing. So it is a competitive model. Realtors can negotiate splits between themselves. They can negotiate lower commissions with homeowners. And so it is competitive. It is not collusive.
It's semi. I mean, there's some truth to what you're saying, Dan, and it is semi-competitive. And the stronger argument that they make is, look, the National Realtors Association, they created something called the MLS, which is the multiple listing, and they've created that. And their point is, well, why should anybody just get access to it? We built it. And there's some truth to that. But I'll just tell you kind of a personal story that just explains a little bit about what a racket this is. So my wife was a realtor, Amy, and she was selling homes, but she let her real estate license expire. You have to be a, quote, realtor. You have to pass some tests, which is ridiculous, by the way. Why should you have to, pass some tests to sell a home or to buy a home? And so she found our house that we live in right now. She found it. We did all the work, blah, blah, blah. So she did all the work that the buyer's agent would do. And the agent who was selling the house says, no, I'm going to take the 6% commission. Normally what happens is they split that commission, 3% for the buyer agent, 3% for the seller. She said, no, I'm taking the whole 6%. And we said, screw you. We did all the work. You didn't do any of the work. And because of the way this kind of cartel works, we got screwed out of 3%.
Steve Moore. Okay.
You're not
Steve
friends
Moore,
with her anymore.
a final word on that. The realtors are going to be coming out after Steve Moore. I can tell you that.
They're a powerful lobby.
They are a powerful lobby.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to get a lot of your listeners are going to be sending me hate mail.
No,
Well, you're used to it. Steve Moore, economist, Godzilla author. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Okay, and is it true that you're now for socialism and communism? Because I saw that on the internet.
It's one of those deep fakes that Joe Biden was talking about.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is good news, maybe exactly when you need it to. Right now, switching to MediShare can save you even more than usual, on top of what you'll save each month by becoming a member of MediShare. So many people are looking for a healthcare solution right now, especially given how inflation is affecting us. And MediShare is the affordable, reliable alternative to health insurance. The typical family saves about $500 a month. You might save even more. And MediShare is a Christian community that's been sharing each other's healthcare costs for 30 years now, and they're making it easier than ever. Apply by October 31st, and you can save an additional $150 on your first month. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just tell them the promo code SHARE to get your additional savings. Maybe now is the time to make the switch, like more than 400,000 people already have, and start saving. Here it is. It's 844-47-BIBLE. That's 844-47-BIBLE. 844-47-BIBLE.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Ruthie. I love helping people. There's so many people that are down. Sometimes all it takes is a piece of pie to make the sunshine come in their life again. And with the help of Balance of Nature, it's making it more fun and giving me more energy. And I would really like to thank Balance of Nature. These are mine for life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Every year, millions of people find a health plan at healthcare.gov during open enrollment. They enjoy more doctor visits, pick up prescriptions, and find the care they need. With the new law, 4 out of 5 customers can find a plan for $10 a month or less with financial help. Enroll by December 15th for coverage starting January.
Financial Group. Learn estate and tax planning strategies, choosing the right IRA, and the ever-important decision when to take Social Security benefits. When you have retirement in sight, sound decisions are critical. Tune in to the Money Hour Radio every Saturday afternoon at 3, right here on AM 560. Brought to you by Pure Shale Financial Group.
Advisor services offered through Pure Shale Financial Group Incorporated. Pure Shale Financial Group Incorporated is a registered independent investment advisor.
AM 560, The Answer.
We've got some breaking news. Sean from Elmwood Park has just issued a fatwa against Steve Moore for his position on the judgment against the National Association of Realtors.
Will those two ever become friends again? I don't know. All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer, it's
Bradley Bowman at 8:08.
And it is 8 o'clock, AM 560.
They are finally fleeing Gaza. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Hundreds of foreign nationals stuck there for weeks have been allowed to leave Gaza along with some wounded civilians.
Just short time ago, we saw that fleet of ambulances going across the border from Egypt into Gaza to pick up some of those critically injured Palestinians.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Jerusalem as the fighting rages. Fox's Trey Yingst is near the Gaza border.
Soldiers are operating inside Gaza. Behind me, it is difficult street-to-street fighting that's taking place. But we do know the Israelis are using their Air Force to target other senior Hamas leadership. Just yesterday, Ibrahim Bairi, the senior commander of the Jabalia battalion from Hamas, was killed in an Israeli airstrike, though the Israelis today are facing new questions about how many civilians were in the area and how many died as a result of that strike.
Hamas claims Israel's bombing that refugee camp a second day, and there have been hundreds of deaths and injuries. House Republicans will start considering in committee today their bill to provide military aid just to Israel, not Ukraine also, like President Biden wants.
The proposal would cut IRS funding from the Inflation Reduction Act in order to seek its passage. That would likely never get through the Democrat-controlled Senate, and Republicans also in the upper chamber, like Senator Mitch McConnell, have expressed a desire as well to pass these priorities together. They point out that the aid package the White House seeks also wants to rebuild U.S. military capabilities.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House. Donald Trump Jr. will take the witness stand today. His brother Eric tomorrow at the Trump Organization's civil trial in New York. Their father just posted on Truth Social that he's being railroaded, and the judicial system's gone to hell. Again, denying his company committed fraud, as the judge already ruled. The former president then called that judge crazy, totally unhinged, and dangerous. As the hearing continues in Colorado for a third day in the lawsuit attempting to block former President Trump from the state's 2024 election ballot. America's listening to Fox News.
29 degrees. 8:02 is our time on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott, and here are the stories we're following on WIND Chicago. A double homicide investigation is underway after a shooting on the city's south side. It happened early this morning in the 8300 block of South Dorchester. A man charged in a mass shooting that wounded 15 this past weekend at an unsanctioned Halloween party on the west side will remain in custody. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling.
Those bad actors who attempt to take lives or take lives, we will be here to stop you. We will be here to apprehend you. So please understand this. We're working together now, and we're working as a community, and we will continue to do so.
William Groves faces 15 counts of attempted murder. Illinois State Police releasing video showing a state trooper being shot last week in Springfield by a Chicago man. Footage showing Cristobal Santana of Chicago pulling a gun and firing shots at Trooper Dakota Chapman Green, whose mother thanked the Springfield community for their support as her son recovered.
And Cody is a super trooper. He is making great strides. Every day he is making improvement, and he cannot wait to come back to work so he can protect all of you.
The Chicagoan Santana severely beat the trooper with a gun and then drove away, arrested. A couple of hours later, Sangamon County State's Attorney Dan Wright says at this point, Santana, who's also wanted for murder here in Chicago, will stay behind bars. Chicago sports, Bears buyers at the NFL trading deadline, swapping a second-round pick to Washington for defensive end Montez Sweat. Bulls take on Dallas later tonight. World Series, Rangers a win away from claiming their first title after an 11-7 Game 4 win. The news a service of Turnkey.pro. With decades of C-suite experience, Turnkey knows small business. Turnkey has solutions for your business. Visit Turnkey.pro. That's Turnkey.pro. 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
JetBlue says it was hit by staggering delays because of weather in the summer quarter. The airline lost money in the period. JetBlue is also expecting to report a loss for the current quarter. Caterpillar's earnings topped expectations. The heavy equipment company says it's seeing strong demand for its high-end construction equipment. The government infrastructure project is resulting in upgrades to roads, railways, and other transportation. It's also seeing demand from customers in oil and gas, defense, and other areas. Apple's shares are lower. The company introduced new MacBook Pro and iMac computers at its Monday event, along with 3 new chips to power them. And Anheuser-Busch InBev saw a small improvement in its recent quarter. The stock is up 3%. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda, invested in you.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Charles Equipment Energy Systems, TJ Stearns Financial Planning and Benefits, and by Aid for Women.
If your money is not earning at least 6% tax deferred, you need to call Professional Life and Casualty. They're offering a 6% APY on new funds deposited into your annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA accounts. Rate subject to change. Please call to confirm. With Professional Life and Casualty, you pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Professional Life and Casualty has been providing insurance and annuity products for over 60 years. Visit plcinsurance.com, plcinsurance.com. They'll send you a free guide to tax-deferred, no-fee annuity. Earn 6% APY on annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA. Pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Only from Professional Life and Casualty. Call 1-800-651-1800. That's 1-800-651-1800.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Pure Talk, America's wireless company, is on a mission to alleviate $10 million in military debt by Veterans Day, but they're going to need your help. Now, Pure Talk will donate a percentage of every new order to this great cause. When you make the switch, they make it simple, fast, and easy to their super fast 5G network. Talk, text, plenty of data now, only at $20 a month. Do it right now. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword save now. Make the switch to Pure Talk, and you can help a military member in need.
It's 8:00. It's 8:00. It's 8:08. Inbound Edens, Lake Cook Road into the junction right now. 62 minutes on that inbound Edens commute. Accident on the left shoulder between Peterson and Old Orchard. Kennedy inbound. It's an hour 6 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike right now settling in at 73 from 390 into the old post office. Stevenson still dealing with multiple crashes being cleaned up on the inbound DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound exit ramp. Right now, 65 minutes into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. 50 minutes in on the Dan Ryan, very heavy from 95th into the Burns Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Sunny and not as cold in your forecast. High 45, chilly overnight again, low 34. 29 at O'Hare. Next news 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Brew some at home today. A family tradition since 1897. Online at papanicholas.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So as we heard yesterday from both the Biden administration, all the stars were out before the Senate Appropriations Committee. SecDef Austin and Christopher Wray, FBI director, and of course animatronic Anthony Blinken, making the case for this holistic, comprehensive approach to foreign aid, $106 billion worth to Ukraine. That's the majority of it. To Israel, to Taiwan, to the border.
Oh, yeah, sure, the border. Mm-hmm.
And McConnell over in the Senate, representing the Republicans, at least some of them, making the case that, yeah, we're going to do something serious on the border, and that'll make Democrats have to swallow hard. So then Republicans who are skeptical of another $60-some-odd billion to Ukraine will swallow hard on that. Well, I thought we had an interesting discussion, really good discussion with Leo Leibovitz on yesterday's program. He's the editor-at-large at Tablet, Israeli immigrant and former academic. I mean, he argues that we should not provide funding to Israel. And he's not saying that because we shouldn't be allied with Israel against Hamas and in furtherance of eradicating Hamas. Of course he believes that. I mean, he had pointed words for what's happening on college campuses and the middling rhetoric of the D.C. press corps. He made a different argument as to why the U.S. shouldn't worry about $14 billion being sent over. They should just focus on sort of the cultural and political leadership that's required to support Israel. Take a listen.
I wrote a piece in July calling on America to end military support to Israel right away. Military support to Israel is really just a form of backdoor subsidy to American defense contractors. Israel doesn't need it. Israel actually loses more than $1 billion every year simply because it is forced to buy American products rather than develop its own weaponry and weapon systems. What I want to see, what I believe so many of your listeners also want to see, is a reality in which no American lives are ever threatened by these conflicts abroad. I want to see a reality in which Israel is free and unfettered to defend its own interests. I want to see a reality in which America understands who its real enemies are and stands fierce to Iran.
Right, and of course stops funding our enemies as we have done directly and indirectly with Iran, with Hamas through aid to Gaza that they control, through our energy policy that has enriched Russia and Iran beyond what they would have otherwise realized, thus helping them finance their nefarious activities. Interesting perspective. One more before we get to our next guest. I interviewed Tom Homan, the former acting ICE director under Trump, for my most recent episode of my Counterculture podcast. Really good discussion with Tom. We went on for an hour because he just has so much detailed knowledge of the topic of border security. He served in every presidential administration going back to Reagan. He was actually promoted under Obama, if you can believe that. It's true. Here's what Tom Homan said about being serious about the border, and if he was a GOP member of Congress, what he would demand. Take a listen.
But there should be zero compromise until we secure this border. Like right now, if I was a member of Congress, I was a Republican member of Congress, I wouldn't be sitting down talking about a spending bill. I wouldn't be talking about an infrastructure bill. I wouldn't be sitting down with the Democrats and negotiate anything until they show me one thing they're going to do to secure the border. Look, this security border, like I said before, it's just not about illegal immigration anymore. This is the biggest national security failure this country has seen since 9/11. Do something to secure that border. I'm not going to negotiate squat with you. And you know what? Now that we have the House, we have the purse strings, we'll shut it down. Shut the government down. People say, that's pretty drastic move. How drastic does it have to get when we know that no suspected terrorists are being arrested at record numbers on our border? How drastic does it have to get? If they can penetrate the most sophisticated wall system Israel has, which is just as good as our wall system, actually some of the technology might even be better, if they can penetrate them and they have an intelligence barrier there, you don't think the same thing happened to us, especially when 70 to 90% of agents are off the line? This is a point. So how bad it's got to get? We're there. So Congress needs to demand action or shut it down. That's my opinion.
And he mentioned 70 to 90% of agents are off the line. Yeah, they become paper pushers to process people into this country. So $1 billion to add more personnel accomplishes nothing with respect to the underlying policy that hamstrings Border Patrol. He went on to say, okay, so here are specific things. I pressed him, but so give me specific things that must be accomplished before you would enter into negotiations about other matters, including this foreign aid that's being debated.
Look, what's happening on the border right now is not a resource issue. It's a policy issue. If they would simply go back to the Trump policies that gave us the most secure border in our lifetime, we'd be there. I'd require, restart the Trump policies. They've proven effective. Mandate E-Verify, finish the wall. Then we'll talk about what you want to do as far as future immigration.
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Bradley Bowman, Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Bradley Bowman, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Let's start with Tom Homan. What's your reaction to that recommendation?
Yeah, no, thank you. I focus on U.S. defense policy and strategy, and so I don't pretend to be an expert on immigration or border security, but I know enough to know that, if we're going to be a nation state that's secure, you got to be able to control who comes into our country. I hosted an event at Foundation for Defense of Democracies on October 11th with the commander of U.S. Southern Command, General Laura Richardson. And one of the things we talked about was Iran's growing activity in Latin America, and as well as Hezbollah's activity there. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if the situation in the Middle East continues to grow worse, that we're going to see growing attempts by Iran and its terror proxies in Latin America to try to come up and get into the United States via our insecure border. So, I agree with him that the Israelis, out of necessity, have had to be very good at building border walls, but we saw the failure of their border wall around Gaza on October 7th with horrific results. And so these things are hard, but I agree with him that they're doable if there's the political will. And the primary problem in terms of the U.S. southern border up to this point is not one of technology or capability, it's political will. So I would agree with him on that.
Yeah, we learned yesterday for Josh Hawley's questioning with Mayorkas that DHS agents are being pulled off of investigating child trafficking to make sandwiches for illegal immigrants. And also a DHS employee posted an image of a Hamas paraglider with a machine gun flying into Israel, and that person hasn't been fired or suspended.
Well, you're right. And actually, students for the so-called college club called Students for Justice in Palestine took that image of the paraglider that you referenced and sent that around to all their little chapters on universities around the country, celebrating that, encouraging people to come rally for that cause. And let's be clear, what did those Hamas terrorists and those paragliders do? They went in and contributed to the largest murder of Jews, single-day murder of Jews since the Holocaust.
Right.
So
it's not a freedom fighter, it's a terrorist.
Exactly. And one only needs to read Hamas's charter to understand that this isn't about a Palestinian state. This is about the extermination of the state of Israel and the murder of Jews. So some of the moral confusion that we're seeing around the world in Europe and also sadly on American college campuses and elsewhere is just really, really, I'd say scary and disappointing. And I think the permissiveness of a lot of college administrators and some of the things we're hearing some professors saying in places like Columbia, it leads to some of these horrible things that we've seen, including at Cornell, for example.
So what about what Leo Leibovitz had to say about not funding Israel, stopping the funding to Israel, as well as Iran and Hamas and so forth? But the point is, I know that the way that American politicians work is we show our support for something by throwing money at it. But Leibovitz is essentially arguing it's doing more harm than good.
Yeah, I don't know him personally. He sounds like a nice gentleman. I think he's dead wrong. I mean, I think he's dangerously wrong. Now you're in the center of my wheelhouse, and I'll just tell you, and I hope your listeners are listening, if you support Israel, do not listen to his advice. He is dead wrong. We provide $3.8 billion in foreign military financing each year to Israel. Right now, we're providing a lot more. I get as much detail as you want. We're providing small diameter bombs, joint direct attack munitions, 155 millimeter artillery shells. Here's the bottom line. The gap between the defense budget Israel needs and the defense budget it has is huge and growing. In other words, obviously, as October 7th demonstrated, Israel is not as secure as we would like. In this moment of increased vulnerability for Israel, would it make sense to cut their defense budget by over $3.8 billion? Absolutely not. And the kind of the cynical, cheap, easy to make talking point about it's a handout to American defense company. I mean, give me a break. It's about, do you want Israel? Do you believe Israel has a right to exist? Do you believe that Israel should have the means to deprive Hamas and Hezbollah of the means of murder? Do you believe that Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism? If yes, yes, and yes, then you want Israel to have the means to defend itself. So why the heck would it make sense in this moment of vulnerability to slash Israel's defense budget? It's really kind of that simple.
Well, okay. I mean, just to be clear, though, I mean, Leibovitz obviously believes all those things. He's a yes, yes, yes on those questions.
He can be very sincere and good intention. He's just dead wrong.
Okay. I wanted to go to Ukraine. I mean, there was a report earlier this week, unnamed officials in Zelensky's inner circle that are suggesting that the administration and the Ministry of Defense there is beset by corruption. We talked to Steve Bucci from the Heritage Foundation yesterday, and even he said, otherwise sort of inclined to be supportive of additional aid to Ukraine, that there needs to be a real accounting for how the money is spent, how the money is going to be spent, and then a check on how it was spent. Mike Johnson, the newly minted speaker, talked about wanting to get some clarity on the end game from the Biden administration before considering support for additional funding for Ukraine. Are those fair concerns and criticisms?
They can make those criticisms. I know, Steve, of course, anyone paying attention knows that the Heritage Foundation, a place that with strong ties to Ronald Reagan, has turned its back on Ukraine. So it's not surprising that you have experts from the Heritage Foundation saying such things. I worked in the U.S. Senate for 9 years. I'm a former military officer. I begin with the questions of Ukraine with the following. What is in the American national security interest, and what principles are at stake? I would say it's in our interest to deter the largest land invasion in Europe since World War II, which is what we are experiencing. The Biden administration failed to deter that. Is America neutral or not neutral when the Kremlin tries to use military force to redraw borders in Europe? When have we seen efforts to redraw borders in Europe? It's called World War I and World War II. Yeah, those are a little different than we are now, but that's not some territorial dispute. What happened? Well, America eventually entered both World War I and World War II, and more than 500,000 Americans gave their lives. Are there any American service members fighting in Ukraine now? Answer, no. What have we spent on Ukraine? Well, we spent about $44.5 billion in security assistance. The overall tag is larger than that. So how is someone listening supposed to say, is that a lot? Is that a little? Well, that $44.5 billion is roughly 3.5%, give or take, of what we spent on the Pentagon over the same time period. So here's the question for your listeners. Do you think it's worth 3.5% to deal body blows to the second leading conventional military threat the United States confronts, and without endangering a single U.S. service member, and then sending a helpful deterrent message around the world to Beijing, Pyongyang, Tehran, and Kremlin that America will not sit on its hands if you conduct the largest invasion in Europe since World War II? That is a bargain. That is an investment. And frankly, these Breitbart articles that are being sent around about corruption. Is there corruption in Ukraine?
Well,
Absolutely.
It was time, not Breitbart.
There is corruption in the United States as well. Is corruption a problem? Yes, but there is no evidence of large-scale diversion of weapons. You know why? Because they need the weapons to fight the Russian invading forces. So,
well, let me.
I, for my part, am not going to be one of someone who echoes Vladimir Putin's talking points, because I think abandoning, if you don't like the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the consequences that caused, you're really not going to like the failure of Ukraine to defend their country against a Russian invasion.
Okay, well then let me get more detail from you. So what does the $60-odd billion do? What is the state of play in Ukraine with respect to repelling the Russians? What are we willing to be on the hook for in terms of, tell me what it would take to put Ukraine in a stronger position than it is now, where it seems, according to some experts, that the June counteroffensive has been degraded into a war of attrition at present?
Very fair question, a question I welcome, and you game on the details. So the answer to your question is $61.4 billion. I can break that down into the 4 or 5 categories that exist. I don't know if we have time for that, but it's $30 billion for Department of Defense equipment for Ukraine and replenishment of U.S. stocks. And let me just foot stomp that. People who oppose supporting Ukraine think they're being real cute and not supporting Ukraine funding. But what they're actually doing, in addition to hurting Ukraine's counteroffensive, they're actually hurting the U.S. military, right? Because the 2 primary means by which we've provided Ukraine weapons is via Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, where you contract with industry, and then Presidential Drawdown Authority, where we send weapons from our own arsenal. So some of those weapons have already gone out the door. And by not supporting funding for Ukraine, all you're doing is preventing the U.S. military from replenishing the older equipment that's already sent to Ukraine with newer equipment, thereby hurting U.S. military readiness. I don't know if a lot of your listeners realize that.
Okay, that's an interesting point. But so then, give us to the extent that's possible. I know these things are difficult to estimate, but where are we? Where is Ukraine? What else will need to be done over what general time period in order to change the seeming trajectory of this effort to repel the Russians?
Yeah. No, thank you for repeating that. I didn't want to talk too long, but I'm absolutely happy to answer that. Here's the bottom line. There's a huge gap between what Ukraine, this will sound familiar what I said earlier, it just happens to also be true in Ukraine. There's a huge gap between what Ukraine needs and what it has to evict Russian forces from all of Ukrainian territory, including Crimea. So I do not see a quick and short path to that outcome. Why? Well, it's because the Russian military is pretty good at World War I style combat with drones, and that's
a lot bigger.
Vladimir Putin doesn't give a darn about throwing young Russians into the meat grinder. He does not care. He does not have the concerns that the Ukrainian democratic leaders would have about loss of life, and they can do artillery warfare till the cows come home. So the only thing that is certain, in my opinion, is if we stop supporting Ukraine, you'll see some sort of Ukrainian defeat. So, in our microwave culture here in the U.S., we want a solution tomorrow. Sorry, sometimes there aren't quick solutions. But what is certain is if we abandon Ukraine, a lot of our European allies will follow. and things will only get worse there, and you could eventually see the collapse of a major European capital. That's failure. So this ending endless war narrative, it's a little bit silly, right? Because there's not a single American fighting in Ukraine. So the bottom line is, if we want to have a negotiated solution, I would say you want Ukraine to be as powerful as possible going to that solution, and you will simply undercut the Ukrainian position, and empower Putin if you deprive Ukraine of the resources it needs. So, I worked on the Hill for 9 years. If you don't like a policy, the first thing you talk about is oversight and accountability. Yes, there's always room for improvement. But the bottom line is we're confronting an unprovoked Kremlin aggression against a beleaguered democracy. How does America feel about that? How does that affect our interests? And what will Beijing conclude if America, after a year and a half of making a good show for it, says, we kind of lost interest. We don't really have the staying power. How does that inform their decision in Taiwan? And I'll tell you, if we don't want to send our sons and daughters to war in the Taiwan Strait, don't ignore the deterrent message that we'll send to Beijing by a failure to stick with Ukraine for the medium term. So can we afford 3.5% for Ukraine for the next 5 to 10 years? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. But that doesn't mean I see a victory next week. And anyone who's saying there will be is not telling you the truth.
Bradley Bowman is Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Bradley Bowman, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Tune into Protect and Grow with Tim Stearns every Saturday at noon on AM 560 The Answer. Certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns holds weekly discussions of the financial challenges to a secure retirement. Learn about planning strategies and solutions that proactive investors utilize to help make continued progress toward retirement goals. Call with questions at 800-640-2256 or visit tjstearns.com. Protect and Grow with Tim Stearns, Saturdays at noon, here on AM 560 The Answer.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Homeowners experiencing low water pressure, rusty yellow water, little to no hot water, or pressure so low that showering is difficult?
Honey, don't flush. I'm in the shower.
These are all symptoms of clogged and corroded galvanized water pipes that are filled with gunk older than you. You should see it. It's disgusting. You drink it, brush your teeth with it, and bathe in it. Yuck. For your family's sake, repipe your home with quality PEX or copper pipes from All Affordable Plumbing. We're your local, family-owned and operated repiping expert. We can repipe your home in 1 to 3 days with minimal disturbance, and we include a lifetime guarantee. And for a limited time, we're offering 12-month no-interest, no-payment financing and a free water heater. So if you have low water pressure, call for a free in-home estimate at 800-NEW-PIPE or visit allaffordable.org. That's 800-NEW-PIPE or visit allaffordable.org. If you have low water pressure, a copper repipe will get you flowing again. Call for a free estimate at 800-NEW-PIPE. That's 800-NEW-PIPE.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Perfect song choice. Am I wrong? So take your calls on our conversation with Bradley Bowman. Over the last 2 days, we've given you a wide range of perspectives on Israel and Ukraine, from Leibovitz to Bowman, from Bucci, from Mearsheimer to Bucci to Bowman. Where do you stand on this $100 billion comprehensive foreign aid, military aid proposal at 8:38?
Now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
29 degrees at 8:32. Here in Chicago, a double homicide investigation is underway after a shooting this morning on the city's south side. It happened around 12:45 this morning in the 8300 block of South Dorchester, where a 19-year-old man and 25-year-old woman were inside a parked vehicle and struck by gunfire. The Rafah crossing from Gaza into Egypt is open. for the first time since the war in Israel began, allowing foreign passport holders and critically injured civilians to leave the Gaza Strip. Fox's Trey Yingst has more from southern Israel.
It's great news that this crossing is open, not only to get injured Palestinians and vulnerable elderly people that need medical attention out, but also those foreign citizens. I do want to give you an update, though, on that woman, a U.S. citizen, who's currently trapped inside Gaza and says she is not on the list to cross today. She just sent me a voice note. I asked her what she would say to the administration, and she's speaking there directly to President Biden, saying they need to leave as soon as possible. She's inside Gaza with her 10-year-old son. She says he was on the list to leave through the Rafah crossing today, but she was not, so she's not going to send him across alone with no one to meet him on the other side. But it gives you a sense of how difficult this process is with the list.
Qatari diplomats mediated that agreement between Egypt, Hamas, and Israel. A caravan of about 5,000 migrants from Central and South America are moving north through Mexico on a journey toward the southern border. Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar says, "We've seen this sort of mass migration before." Caravan is the largest since June of last year, he says. It's being escorted by Mexican police. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has declared a local emergency after 2 became trapped in the collapse of a 10-story coal plant. A man is charged in a mass shooting that wounded 15 this past weekend. It all happened at an unsanctioned Halloween party on Chicago's west side. William Groves will remain behind bars.
To those bad actors who attempt to take lives or take lives, we will be here to stop you. We will be here to apprehend you. So please understand this. We're working together now, and we're working as a community, and we will continue to do so.
Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling. Several lawmakers in Illinois are challenging the state's sanctuary status. Legislators are sponsoring a bill that would repeal the Trust Act. House Republican floor leader Patrick Windhorst, among many, issuing a joint statement saying the Trust Act has been a disaster for the state of Illinois. The Bears, active at the trade deadline, trading a second-round pick to D.C. for Washington defensive end Montez Sweat. Bulls aim to get above the 500 mark when they visit Dallas tonight. World Series, Rangers beat Arizona 11-7, and they're a win away from a World Series title. The news service of Lowe's. Provember is here at Lowe's. Right now, save $200 on a DeWalt sliding miter saw. Lowe's knows pros while supplies last. Selection varies by location, valid through 11/22, and subject to change. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Breakthrough Ideas, Linex of Roselle, and by the law offices of Stephen Leahy.
Hi, this is Randy Donnelly from Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois. Recently, I saved a woman from being robbed. Her husband had passed away, and some of his friends had stopped by to buy his guns. Luckily for her, she heard my commercials and decided to call me before she sold them. I'm happy to report that she received at auction over 4 times the amount she had been offered. It's a simple, easy process. Donnelly Auction holds a federal firearms license and does all the necessary paperwork to sell your guns legally at auction. And we offer free pickup. So call me before you sell them outright, because you could be leaving a fortune on the table. And you won't know until you call me at 815-923-7000 or send me an email at donnellyauctions.com. My job is to get you top dollar for your guns and military collections, so call me today at 815-923-7000. I'm Randy Donnelly, and I'll see you at the auction.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Ruthie. I love helping people. There's so many people that are down. Sometimes all it takes is a piece of pie to make the sunshine come in their life again. And with the help of Balance of Nature, it's making it more fun and giving me more energy. And I would really like to thank Balance of Nature. These are mine for life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This special announcement is for anyone experiencing osteoarthritis-related knee pain, rotator cuff shoulder pain, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol and triglycerides, or are interested in plasma donation. Contact Affinity Health today. Affinity Health is running paid clinical trials with no insurance needed. Call 630-491-1900 or go to affinityhealthcorp.com and click Join a Study to see if you qualify.
Cable news. Noisy, out of touch, on repeat. Tired of all the lookalikes? So are we. Salem News Channel is here to change the game. Streaming 24/7, free on your TV with the greatest collection of conservative voices. Home to Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Like you, we say what's wrong and what's right. Unfiltered and unapologetic. Salem News Channel. We're the answer to the mainstream media. Learn more at snc.tv.
This hourly segment is brought to you by CharlesEquipment.com, keeping you powered up no matter what the conditions. CharlesEquipment.com.
8:39, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. But we've had a day. Inbound Edens at 61 minutes from Lake Cook Road to the junction after all those accidents and slippery conditions on the inbound Edens this morning. The Kennedy still a mess at an hour 20 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. 95 minutes on the inbound Ike right now from 390 to the old post office. Stevenson still cleaning up accidents as you roll inbound to DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound. 74 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. 394 remains shut down northbound between Sauk Trail and US 30 because of several bad accidents there. And you have problems on the tri-state right now. An exit ramp closed due to a few accidents. It's northbound at Toohey. The ramp to eastbound Toohey is closed. And a car fire has just cropped up with a right lane block southbound on the tri-state between Toohey and Lawrence. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Sunny and not as cold in your forecast. High 45, 29 right now. Next news at 9. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So over the last couple of shows, we've given you the wide range of thoughtful opinion on aid to Ukraine and Israel. Now throw in Taiwan and this border funding sop that the establishment in D.C. is trying to use to leverage Republican support mainly for funding Ukraine. John Mearsheimer from University of Chicago. You've heard from Steve Bucci at the Heritage Foundation. You've heard from Leah Leibovitz from Tablet. And you just heard from Bradley Bowman from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, sort of running the gamut from yes to no. Yes, an unequivocal, open-ended yes to a unequivocal no at this point for a variety of reasons. So where do you come down after hearing and processing those various views?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You can also text us at 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
Amy, would you like to
Nah, I'm good.
begin?
I would love to hear what people have to say.
All right, let's start with Alex in Winfield. You're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, Amy, you guys are fantastic. Thanks for taking my call. But I'm in shock that, you got someone as great as Bradley Bowman on there. Holy cow. this guy, he's talking to us plebes down here and dropping to 3.5% of the Pentagon budget. I mean, come on, there's three types of lies: damn lies, and statistics.
Well, okay, but I mean, he's right in terms of the $61 billion. I mean, this is a federal government that spent last year $6.3 trillion. And of course, the Pentagon is north of 700 billion, 800 billion. So, I mean, he's not wrong about the relatively small amount of money in the great expanse of what the federal government spends. And even if you argue that this money can be culled from, as Mike Johnson wants to do with Israeli funding, pull $14 billion that was allocated to the IRS. You can pull money from here, pull money from there, so you hold the overall spend harmless at the federal level. So he's right about the money, but to me, it's not really as much about the money as it is the overall geopolitical positioning of America and the judiciousness of our ongoing open-ended engagement. And that's where I think we need to have our discussion. I mean, you understand that.
What about that, though? He said he shrugged off 18 months like, oh, it was only 18 months. Is 10 years long enough? 20 years? When do we draw the line and say, you know what, we got to protect our own border?
Thanks for the call, Alex. Well, right. I mean, he did say, that level of spend, I don't know on an annualized basis, but that level of spend, he did use the window of 5 to 10 years, which may be underestimating it.
I just don't trust our government. I don't trust anything they say. And if they say, oh no, this package, funds Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and our border, our border is last on that priority list, and it should be the first thing on our priority list.
Well, and the other thing, per Tom Homan's comments, it's not a resource issue at the border. It's a policy issue. So the $1 billion to buy off support in the belief that that's going to do something material at the border, it's not.
No, hiring 1,500 more agents is not going to stop the problem.
Not if you just have them push paper around desks and, as you said, make sandwiches for migrants as opposed to patrol the border. It's certainly not, in addition to the infrastructure that needs to be built and so on and so forth. So that's the, part of the reason people don't trust is because you have a sleight of hand gambits perpetrated on the public by the Mitch McConnells of the world that pretend this $1 billion for 1,500 agents is material, and it just isn't with respect to the overall goal of border security. And so when you're lying to me and when you're not being honest about how we've gotten ourselves into these sticky wickets by funding effectively all sides, as I keep saying, then I have a little problem trusting your intentions as well as your assessments when it comes to this latest package.
And you should see the thousands that are on their way here, Dan. Oh, my God.
Well, of course they are.
I know, but it's just the Democrats, I think, are just trying to grow their base, grow their party. And that's why people are, all over the place in Chicago. It's just disgusting. It's not even sanitary.
The other thing McConnell said yesterday is, we shouldn't be sending money to New York and Chicago. Well, of course I agree with that, but that's still part of a misdirection play. We also shouldn't say that $1 billion for 1,500 agents is going to do something different than what's happening at the border now. We should be talking about the policy choices and the policy changes that need to be made as an opener for negotiation, as Tom Homan said. I think Homan is over the target if you want to prioritize border security in a meaningful way. Kevin, Libertyville.
Good morning, Dan, Amy. How are you guys? Listen, if you're trying to convince me to see your side and I catch you in a lie, I think the discussion is over. When he stated that it's important to support Ukraine because if you don't support Ukraine, you're not supporting America's military because our weapons systems need to be replaced. We have a defense bill that takes care of American weapons. We don't need to send Ukraine money. Right there, that's a bold-faced lie that he should have been taken down on right away. Then, when he calls Ukraine a bastion of democracy, are you kidding me? This guy has had his journalists who don't agree with him arrested. He's shut churches that don't support him. And then he glosses over accountability by saying, we can always do better. Well, we have a president that has legitimate charges against him for laundering money from foreign countries. One of them happens to be Ukraine, and he is just saying, oh, we could do better and we shouldn't worry about that. Sorry, if you're trying to convince me to your side and you lie repeatedly, it's done.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. Appreciate it. This continuation of presenting Zelensky as some sort of, small L liberal, peaceful pluralist. It is belied by the actions that he's taken, some of which Kevin just mentioned. And so it makes it hard for people to get past that, to say, okay, well, he's an imperfect actor, and that's an imperfect kleptocracy. But still, we have to make an assessment between imperfects, and do we want to support the imperfect Ukrainian regime in repelling the Russians, which presents a much greater threat to stability in the West. But I understand. If you're telling me somebody is something that they're not, then it makes it very difficult for me to trust you. Let's call things what they are, and then let's make hard-headed decisions about what's in America's best interests. That's a fair criticism. Matt on the South Side.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. My biggest problem with that last interview was that guy kept saying that if we don't stick with Ukraine, we're going to show weakness as far as China trying to take over Taiwan, and I think that's totally incorrect. I think China, if they decide to go into Taiwan, the biggest reason for that is because of Biden's weak posture on the world stage. I don't think it has anything to do with sticking with Ukraine. I think it has a lot more to do with how Biden looks and how he's perceived by world leaders throughout the entire world. That's all I got to say.
Thanks for the call, Matt. I think that's a fair point, too. Really, Xi and the Chinese communists are looking at America. If we send $60 billion to Ukraine, that's some sort of lasting deterrent effect. I mean, they'll look at it another way, too. Okay, this is a weak president trying to make sure Ukraine doesn't fall before November of next year. So that's not much of a deterrent, is it? Not to mention what the Chinese communists have seen, not just in Afghanistan, but with this other problem that is largely of our creation, appeasing Iran in the Middle East, for example. So you really think this will impress a lasting deterrent effect on the Chinese communists with respect to their aims on Taiwan and everything else in their pursuit of global hegemony? That seems unlikely to me, too. Merck in Princeton. Hello?
Hi, Dan.
Yep.
Yeah, good morning. I've been listening for about 13 years, and never in my life have I heard a spokesman for Raytheon, General Dynamics, Lockheed, pick your military contractor, ever speak. That guy's a clown. And to think that we don't have military advisors in country, or a nice word for military advisor is special forces or technical specialists. When you send over an Abrams tank, you don't just drop it off and say, here you go. That guy, he's a war profiteer. That's all he is.
All right, Mark, thanks for the call. Mike in Hammond.
Hey, thanks, Dan, for taking my call. Yeah, when this guy really lost me when he says, we should be willing to support Ukraine for the next 5 to 10 years. Through attrition alone, we're going to have troops on the ground. And then he said we're going to get Crimea back. Crimea is never coming back. And if that means, if we draw out, that means the European countries will draw out. Well, it's on their doorstep. So they have to be willing to step up a lot more than us. But eventually our troops on the ground are going to happen if this goes a few more years.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Well, that's Mearsheimer's concern, even though he cites it as a remote possibility at present. I guess the argument, to play devil's advocate on behalf of Bowman, would be you show a stick-to-itiveness with respect to Ukraine, and they continue to impose significant costs on the Russians, which they have, then at some point you're going to compel Putin to the negotiating table and be able to negotiate some sort of armistice. That's a theory. Philip, Blue Island.
Well, I'll just say no to both, especially with Ukraine, because I just believe they're still in the money. And as far as strategic defense of America, and NATO and all these different types. I just don't know about a lot of that. But when it comes to Israel, I think they're damn near in the midst of a civil war. They're in the midst of a genocide. I believe that not Hamas, but Palestine has a right to defend itself for the Palestinian people. And again, it's Hamas that they're fighting. It's not like they're fighting a major military. And now we're going to throw another 150. Well, we give them 150 billion every year anyway, and now another 50, 60, 70 billion. When is it in?
We give them like $3 billion, but okay. Thanks for the call, Philip. I've got a little technical difficulty here. Let's go to Joe in Lake Geneva.
Dan, hi, Amy.
Hello.
I've always been a financial guy, and I guess one question I've got is, we're over $1 trillion in debt, and a lot of that is to the Chinese, and nobody ever seems to ask, when is this going to stop? I mean, you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars more in aid, and I mean, we have to keep borrowing to do it. Doesn't anybody see that as a threat to our eventual national security?
Thanks for the call, Joe. Let's go to Tom in Blue Island.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. I'd piggyback on what Amy said, that there's a specific distrust in what goes on in the government in this country. What I would disagree with the other callers is, Dan, unlike the questioning you gave, which was specific and you were trying to get specific answers, there's no specific questions and there's no specific answers. We've been called election deniers. We said we wanted millions of people to die if they didn't want to get vaccinated. So the answer is we don't trust them. And so if he wants to make his case, then the government ought to be making it in public, as opposed to just saying, if you don't fund Ukraine, you're a Putin stooge. And once you call somebody a Putin stooge, you lose them in the argument. So if they want the funding, that's great. If they can make the argument that it's valuable, fine. But you got to make the argument. You can't just say, do what we say, or else you're a traitor or something.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Mike in his car.
Hello, Mike.
Mike here. Yeah, hi, Mike. Mike here, Dan and Amy. I'm a first-time caller, and I just wanted to say, I totally disagreed with that speaker as far as the wars go, because basically we're fighting what we're funding with our terrible energy policy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're basically making Iran and Russia richer with our terrible oil policy, because when Trump was in office, we had energy independence. We were drilling our own oil, fracking. We had the Keystone pipeline going, getting oil from Canada. We were actually exporting oil, making oil cheaper. Gas was about $1.88 a gallon. And with our terrible energy policy, all the oil prices have spiked. And we're basically funding these wars for Russia and Iran by making oil expensive and making them rich, whereas before they were getting poorer and poorer. So we can fight these wars all we want and send them weapons and equipment, and we're paying for it all in our terrible energy policy.
That's a good point. Thanks for the call, Mike. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Attention taxpayers. If you or your business owe the IRS back taxes or have years of unfiled tax returns, the IRS has green-lighted billions of dollars in tax relief to those facing financial hardship through its tax relief initiatives. If you have a delinquent tax problem and possibly facing wage garnishment, liens, levies, audits, or already in a payment plan, you may now qualify for significant relief. Qualifying and enrolling in this program could stop all collections, settle your tax problem, and may even reduce what you owe by up to 99%. Call the hotline at Tax Help USA to see if you qualify and receive your free tax assessment by dialing 800-419-0017. If you or your business owe back taxes to the IRS or state, you can now get the help that you need during these hard economic times. Get your free tax assessment to see what you qualify for by dialing 800-419-0017. 800-419-0017. That's 800-419-0017.
You're smart, you're busy, and don't have time to waste on the mainstream media cycle. Salem News Channel breaks that cycle. Topics that matter from hosts worth watching. Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Open debate and free speech you won't find anywhere else. Salem News Channel. Not like the other guys. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find everything you need to know at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
Have you been searching for a Napa Valley quality winery experience closer to home? A hidden gem awaits you at Bishop's Hill Winery in Joliet. Come experience fine wine, history, and castles. Stay to enjoy the Bishop's Hill tasting room to round out a perfect day. The Bishop's Hill Castle is easily accessible in nearby Joliet. This facility was home to a former brewery in the 1860s and is located on a hill with a commanding view where you'll enjoy sampling some of the highest rated wines in the world. Bishop's Hill wines are made from California grapes and sustainably grown. These wines have received Best in Class, Gold, and Double Gold awards at the San Francisco Chronicle North American Wine Competition. Now is your opportunity to stock up for the holidays and purchase national award-winning wine from Joliet-based Bishop's Hill Winery. If you want the Napa experience without the cost, look no further. Group discounts are available, and the Bishop's Hill Castle is also ready to host your next event for your family or business. Visit online at bishopshill.com. That's bishopshill.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, Dan, did you get any trick-or-treaters last night?
No.
Not
did not.
one?
No.
Did you go trick-or-treating since you're the youngest person in your neighborhood?
I think my neighborhood was expecting me to and was disappointed that I didn't because nobody had any candy to give out to anybody. But alas, I did not.
Okay. All right, well, we had none either. And somebody took my bowl. I left the candy out, and somebody stole my favorite bowl. So I'm going to be looking for that.
That's what happens in Lakeview. Yeah.
I know. So unappreciative. All right, thanks so much to Justin Kosick and Quinn McCarthy. I hope you guys enjoyed the chili, and I hope the crew enjoys cleaning up the chili in the elevator. It is going to be sunny today, a little bit warmer, a high of 45 degrees. It's 9 a.m., WIND, Chicago.
Donald Trump Jr. will soon take the witness stand. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News in New York at the Trump